The Strongest Sect. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226. We can still save it. Li Shangxian was so nervous during his first mission that his legs kept shaking. He was especially nervous when he saw the ferocious hunting team members coming down the mountain path. As a result, he was exposed. The poisonous snake hiding nearby was roaring in his heart. What kind of person did I train? He exposed himself before he even entered the ambush circle. The team leader looked at Li Shangxian and said in a cold tone, "Kill him." Swish, swish. As soon as the words fell, the hunting team members had already waved their arms, and all kinds of hidden weapons were dragged and shot out. Li Shangxian, who was already nervous, turned pale in an instant. His mind went blank, and all his escape skills flew into the sky. He just stood there stupidly on the tree, forgetting to hide at all. Swish. The poisonous snake jumped from another tree and kicked the trembling Li Shangxian down. Puff, puff. More than 10 hidden weapons were instantly nailed to his body, and he fell to the ground with a hideous face. Li Shangxian, who stumbled and fell, finally came to his senses. But when he saw VIP falling in front of him, with hidden weapons stuck in his back and blood splattering, he said in horror, "Snake. Brother Snake. This GM is really a pig teammate." VIP endured the severe pain and yelled, "Go." This voice was like a wake-up call, instantly waking up the bewildered Li Shangxian. When he was about to stand up, the deputy team leader strode over with a black whip in his hand. "Dare to hide in my Black Eagle Hall territory, you are tired of living." Snap. The long whip swung and hit VIP's back directly. His clothes were torn, showing deep red whip marks, which made him look ferocious. "Go, go." The venomous snake growled in pain, as if he had used up the last of his strength. On the way to Huaing County, he once joked not to be dragged down by this kid. Now it seems that his mouth must have been blessed. Looking at Brother Snake's painful expression and the constantly spurting blood, Li Shangxian clenched his fists tightly, his fingernails digging into the flesh. "You bunch of kids, listen to me. As a killer, no matter how dangerous the situation is, you must remain absolutely calm. If your companions are in danger, the first thing to do is to ensure your own safety. Don't rush to rescue them. This will only put each other in an irretrievable situation. I emphasize again, the killer's rule is that once your whereabouts are exposed, you must escape as soon as possible without any hesitation." The words that VIP had taught him and others kept ringing in his ears, calming his frightened mood. Don't panic. Don't get confused. All you can do now is run away quickly. Li Shangxian's legs stopped shaking, and he stood up in a flash. The killer skills that flew up to the sky returned to his body, allowing him to perform the ghost step. Swish. His legs spread out like a ghost. However, Li Shangxian did not follow the killer's code. He did not run back, but rushed forward with big strides, and when the deputy team leader swung the whip, he picked up VIP. Snap. The long whip swung, but it hit nothing. Li Shangxian hugged VIP and ran away like a wild horse. On the way, he cried out loudly with tears like rain, "Brother Snake, I was wrong. Brother Snake, don't die." Because he ran too fast and didn't care about Brother Snake's injuries, he sprayed blood from the bumps and finally fainted with his eyelids. "Don't let him run away," the team leader shouted. Swish, swish, swish. More than a dozen members of the hunting team fired hidden weapons crazily. Li Shangxian, who was only a second-grade martial artist, seemed to have burned his small universe. He made all kinds of coquettish moves while running wildly, which made people's scalps numb. Hidden weapons flew past them again and again, and were either nailed to trees, or nailed to stones and bounced off. Damn guy. A member used his body skills to overtake on the curve and came around. The sword in his hand flashed with light under the blessing of spiritual power. Die. When Li Shangxian was forced over, he raised his hand and chopped him down. Bang, a stream of light shot from the side and pierced directly through the temple. Blood spurted several meters away and splashed on the face of Li Shangxian, who happened to run over. "It's a little hot." "Ah." Li Shangshan screamed, burning his inner universe for the second time, and fled madly. This was unfair to the VIP, who was being held. He fainted and was bleeding continuously from the bumps. If he was awake, he would definitely say, "I can still save him." Xiao Qi. Seeing their subordinate's head being shot through, the team leader and the deputy team leader roared in anger. Bang. Just at this moment, a subordinate beside him was shot through the head and fell straight to the ground. Swish, swish, swish. Li Luoqiu stood on a tree in the distance and fired 3 more shots, killing 3 more targets. With a shooting talent that is not inferior to Xiao Zuji, with an 8-fold scope and a silencer, he is very good at sneaking up on people. Brother. The deputy team leader was shocked. What kind of hidden weapon is this? Although the team leader was furious, he still ordered, "There are still people in the dark. Everyone be careful." Rustling. Dozens of black shadows rushed over from both sides, like ghosts. Jun Changxiao's plan was to ambush these people when they came down the mountain and came to the intersection, but Li Shangshan was exposed in advance, so he could only launch a plan to wipe them out on the mountain road. Swish, swish. Xiao Zuji on the other side pulled the trigger continuously and only heard a slight sound of breaking wind, and one by one the members of the hunting team were killed on the ground. Facing high level beasts, the 88 type sniper rifle has limited power, but facing a group of martial artists, it really kills whoever you point at. As Xiao Zuji and Li Luoqiu killed one after another, the members of the hunting team were immediately confused. After all, this kind of hidden weapon that appeared out of nowhere and killed people with every move was too terrifying. Retreat. The team leader realized that something was wrong and gave the order without hesitation. However, when he turned around, he saw a sturdy man sitting on the steps of the mountain road. The man put his hands on his thighs, clasped his fingers together, and supported his chin. His black hair fluttered in the wind, revealing a cold face. There was a sword next to him. Although it was not unsheathed, it exuded a chill. Who? Yi Xingchen. He just sat quietly on the stone steps, exuding the momentum of a man standing alone against 10,000 men. Clang, clang. The sound of unsheathing came from the bottom of the mountain, and the Iron Bone School disciples led by Li Qingyang showed their weapons and rushed up. The way was blocked by Yi Xingchen, and there were members of Xiao Tang on both sides, and then rushed up from behind. The members of the hunting team were surrounded in a very short time. "Show your weapons," the team leader said in a deep voice. Swish, swish. The men brought out their swords, and their bodies were filled with the same ferocity as wild beasts. Except for the sudden death of several members just now, which was a bit scary. What kind of battles have they not seen in the hunting team? Second brother, lead the people to rush up and kill that pretentious guy, and the others will follow me to block the latecomers. Yes. The deputy team leader organized more than 20 men and rushed to the stone stairs. The men took a step ahead and poured spiritual power into their weapons, which flashed dazzling white light. A bunch of bastards. Yi Xingchen's eyes showed strong disdain until those people were about to get close, and his right hand grabbed the cold sword and his left hand unsheathed. Clang, the cold light flashed, and the sword light flashed. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. It was difficult to catch how many swords Yi Xingchen had in one breath with a naked eye. But when the sword light dissipated, the more than 20 members of the hunting team who rushed over all stood in place and waved. Tread, tread. Yi Xingchen walked down from the gap between them step by step, looking down at the deputy team leader who was a first-class martial artist, and said in a cold voice, "Do you know what it feels like to die?" Chapter 227 Just kill me. What does it feel like to die? In this regard, Jun Changxiao has experienced it, and Yi Xingchen has also experienced it. Only those who have truly experienced death can deeply understand that before death, they originally loved the world so much. It's a pity. It will eventually be lost. So Jun Changxiao, who came through, was grateful to continue to be alive. Even if he was burdened with a seemingly impossible task, he would encourage himself to face it optimistically. And the 20 members of the hunting team who rushed up first stood in place, experiencing the taste of death. Because there were small sword marks on the neck, although the blood did not seep out, the mind and soul were slowly separating from the body. This process seemed to be very long, making them extremely reluctant and nostalgic, but they could not stop it, and could only experience the arrival of death in person. Plop, plop. 20 Black Hawk Hall disciples collapsed on the ground together. The sword marks on the neck appeared, and blood began to splatter as the wound changed. As members of the evil sect, they understood more about death than ordinary people, and even had long been prepared for death. But when this moment really came to them, it turned out to be really reluctant. Gulp. The deputy team leader swallowed his saliva, his eyes were filled with horror, and his hands trembled involuntarily. 20 men were killed by this pretentious man who looked down on him in a few breaths. His strength was really terrible. Even the hall master couldn't do it. Not a few breaths, but one breath. The Knight's Star Sword was unsheathed, the sword light flashed, and they were already dead. 2 words, gong sui. Swish. The deputy team leader made the most correct choice in the fastest time, and used the sect's body skills to retreat. However, when he just turned around, his expression was dull. Wherever he looked, the team leader had already fought with a group of unidentified people. It was not a fight. The members of their hunting team were being slaughtered crazily by the group of teenagers who seemed to be only 17 or 18 years old. Especially the team leader, who was stronger than himself, was beaten without any ability to fight back when facing a teenager. Break. Li Qingyang turned his body to one side, and the spiritual power poured into his arm. He instantly performed the mountain opening palm and directly hit the team leader's blade. The palm knife gathered its power at one point and slammed into the knife, breaking it into 2 pieces mercilessly. Thump, thump, thump. The team leader retreated several steps, looking at the severed saber, his eyes flashing with disbelief. That was a common grade weapon given to him by the hall master, but it was actually chopped off by a young man with palm power. How strong was that? Puff. Just at this moment, a subordinate not far behind him was pierced directly through the chest by Long Xiang's overlord spear. Bang. He kicked the corpse away and looked at the blood-stained gunhead. He murmured, "Killing people is indeed much more enjoyable than killing beasts." Puff. Puff. At the other end, Suzaomo and Li Fei stepped on the ghost step and swung the cold sword at a very fast speed, and blood splattered on the stumps. The two had killed assassins and disciples of the Black Hawk Hall, so they could do it without any waves. Although Zhang Wei and others had killed Black Hawk disciples in Death Valley before, it was easy for them to kill one enemy after another with their strength and equipment advantages. No one is born cruel, and no one likes to kill. So this killing was still a spiritual experience for the Iron Bone School disciples. The most professional members of the Rainy Hall killed the members of the hunting team one by one with all kinds of hidden weapons, without blinking an eyelid. The number of people on both sides was about the same. But the Iron Bone School disciples were crushed in terms of strength and equipment, so the melee was definitely a one-sided massacre. Especially when they gradually adapted to killing for the second time, their state of mind began to change. Their hands did not shake. Their hearts were not nervous, and they killed more cruelly. I don't kill people, people kill me. So I can only kill to keep myself alive. Jun Changxiao had already experienced killing in Black Wind Mountain, so he did not take action, but stood on the tree and watched. He was very pleased with the adaptation shown by the disciples in the second killing. In the cruel alien world, where martial arts is respected, even if you are not bloodthirsty, you must at least have the awareness of killing, in order to live better. Master! Master! At this moment, Li Shangshan rushed over with the venomous snake in his arms, crying, "Hurry up and save Brother Snake! Hurry up and save Brother Snake!" Seeing that the venomous snake's face was pale from the bumps all the way, Jun Changxiao jumped down hurriedly, opened his mouth, and threw a healing pill into it. The pill spread in the body, and the venomous snake, who was originally dying, suddenly opened his eyes, and the first sentence was, "Li Shangshan, go to your uncle, you almost killed me. Wake up, wake up." Seeing Brother Snake open his eyes, Li Shangshan was ecstatic, and even felt that being scolded was particularly refreshing. Swish. Jun Changxiao waved his hand, threw the cold sword over and said, "If you don't kill someone, you will be sorry for the venomous snake and the healing pill of this seat." Li Shangshan caught the cold sword and his expression was suddenly stunned. Thinking of how Snake had been hit by a hidden weapon for himself, and now it was still stuck in his body. Fashion was the most fashionable, and his eyes suddenly showed murderous intent. Clang. Li Shangshan drew his sword and shouted, "I want to kill people." Then he rushed forward. Jun Changxiao grabbed his collar, twisted him around, pointed to the front and said, "You're running in the wrong direction." "Master," Li Shangshan said with a bitter face, I'm afraid." "Fuck you." The VIP lay on the ground, pointed at the people fighting, and shouted, "Go and kill them for me. If you can't kill two, go back and train twice as much." Hearing the words "teach twice as much," Li Shangshan raised his sword and rushed forward. The VIP said awkwardly, "Master, it was my Xiaotang who failed to teach well and cultivated such a cowardly guy." Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "Killing is not a trivial matter after all. It's normal for Li Shangshan to be afraid." The VIP was silent. Thinking back to the first time he killed someone at the age of 14, it took him a long time to let it go. Li Luoqiu stood on the tree and said with a smile, "The little guy who saved you just now ran quite fast." Jun Chang smiled and said, "This is a good seedling. If he can train his courage, he may become a tiger general in your Xiaotang. Killing more people will naturally train his courage." Li Luoqiu paused and said, "VIP, when you go back, double the training on him." "Yes," VIP replied. In order not to double the training, Li Shangshan rushed over with a fear. If he knew that he couldn't escape in the end, he would definitely cry loudly. Li Shangshan rushed over and circled around an enemy, Shanqi, who was fighting with the members of the hunting team, and gave him killing space many times, said in a very collapsed manner, "Go ahead and kill." Pachi. The cold sword pierced the man's body. Blood splashed on Shanqi's face, making him almost faint with anger. "I created so many good opportunities for you, but you chose to kill me at an angle that splashed blood on my face. What a stupid teammate." Swish. The sword was drawn out, and the body fell to the ground. Enduring the dizziness caused by spinning, Li Shangshan stared at the bloody sword, and his stomach suddenly churned. "Mom. I killed someone." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just at this moment, several hidden weapons flew from behind. Ding, ding, ding. Yang Yuhua strode over and blocked them with a strong iron shield, saying, "Junior brother, I'll leave the hidden weapons to you. Kill again." Li Shangshan held the bloody sword, and somehow his hands stopped shaking. He shouted again to gain courage and killed. Swish, swish. The hidden weapons came one after another. Li Shangshan relied on the ghost step to dodge, and finally rushed in front of him, and swept the cold sword fiercely. Pachi. This sword was infused with all its strength and directly took the opponent's head away. Chapter 228. The hunting group was killed. Although the member of the hunting group was a 5th grade martial artist, he was beheaded without even a chance to dodge due to the high speed burst and the blessing of the cold sword. The man was fast, and the sword was also fast. This is the result of Li Shangshan's training for dozens of days. Not bad. Jun Changxiao smiled with satisfaction. As long as this disciple can overcome his psychological problems, he is still worth cultivating. I killed someone again. Looking at the head falling in the distance, Li Shangshan was stunned. It's strange to say, the originally highly nervous state of mind gradually stabilized as he killed the enemy. If you think about it carefully, it's not that scary. Zhang Wei and others killed the enemy again and again, and realized that killing people is just like this, and it is even easier than killing fierce beasts. This is because their strength and equipment are too strong, and they have experienced the experience of Death Valley in their first killing. Although the members of the hunting group are also veterans who have experienced hundreds of battles, they are definitely not able to withstand a group of monsters. In a short period of time, more than 80 members of the hunting group were killed, and 50 to 60 of them were killed. Among them, Yi Xingchen was the most sturdy, killing 20 people with one sword. What are the casualties of the Tigu school? Except for the venomous snake, all other disciples were safe and sound, not even injured. In theory, the members of the hunting team are similar to killers, and are good at throwing hidden weapons. Even if they don't die, it's okay to be injured, right? There were really a lot of hidden weapons thrown. But what made them collapse was that the group of teenagers could condense a vague barrier around their bodies and easily block the hidden weapons. The value of the seal shield was reflected. Although the disciples of the Iron Bone school have not yet practiced to the extreme, it is still easy to condense and block the power of 10,000 pounds. all covered with frying pans to protect their bodies. This will definitely make opponents who are good at throwing hidden weapons despair. Damn it. The team leader, who had been entangled by leaking Guiyang, saw his men fall one by one, and his eyes were filled with rage. But he also realized that the enemy was strong, and he wanted to retreat. In the past, he always killed others and repelled them, but today he was timid and wanted to retreat. Swish. The team leader seized the opportunity, dodged leaking Guiyang's mountain opening palm, and was about to run up the mountain, just in time to witness the scene of the deputy team leader's head being cut off. Yi Xingchen held the blood sword and stood behind the headless body, his face as cold as ever. Hiss. The team leader gasped. More than 20 disciples went to kill the pretentious man, but all of them were dead in front of the ladder. Even the deputy team leader, who was also a first-grade martial artist like himself, was killed. No wonder he dared to block the road alone. Hey. Leaking Guiyang's voice came from behind. Don't be distracted. Bang. The mountain-splitting palm hit his back, and the powerful force directly knocked the team leader out. Step. After landing, his face was pale, and his meridians were severely damaged, but his eyes were flashing red. Ha. Leaking Guiyang was quite surprised. Swish. Just at this moment, the team leader was filled with blood-red air, and then he rushed to the mountain with a red shadow. He did not go to Yi Xingchen's position, but jumped more than 20 meters, landed directly on the mountain wall, and rushed up like a monkey. Run so fast? Jun Changxiao asked in surprise. Li Luoqiu said, it should be a kind of evil body technique. The martial arts practiced by the righteous sects are all about gradual progress, aiming to move forward steadily, while the martial arts practiced by the evil sects are mostly about extremes. This has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantages, that the practice speed is fast and the strength is also improved quickly. The disadvantage is that there will be a corresponding price to pay in the practice process and even in the process of performing. For example, the team leader used the evil body technique of blood explosion step. Although it can instantly increase speed and jumping power, the price is that the blood is burned, and after the performance, it will definitely fall into exhaustion. If the burning is too intense, it may even die. Zuji. Jun Chang smiled and said, shoot it down. Yes. Xiao Zuji aimed the 8-fold scope at the team leader who was constantly climbing the rock, predicted the position according to his jumping speed, and then pulled the trigger. Swish. The bullet burst out and there was a slight sound of breaking wind. We will be at the mountain gate soon and safe soon. The leader's desire to survive reached its peak with his blood burning. He jumped a dozen times and landed on the top of the mountain. A smile suddenly appeared on his face. Suddenly, a strong breath of death filled the air. The leader, who had just lost his strength, suddenly contracted his pupils and said in shock, no. Bang. The bullet went straight through the back of his head and blood splattered. When he rushed up, if he continued to run away, the bullet shot by Xiao Zuji might not hit his head, but he thought he was safe and was shot in the head when he was a little careless. It was destined to be a death. There was nothing that could be done. Plop. The leader fell straight down, his lifeless eyes wide open, looking at the direction of the Black Hawk Hall mountain gate, which was only 50 meters away. Creaky. The tightly closed upper door opened, and the Black Hawk Hall disciples rushed out. When they saw the leader of the hunting team died tragically on the stone platform on the top of the mountain, their faces changed drastically. Not good. Team leader's son was killed. Master. After Xiao Zuji fired the gun, his 8-fold scope was still aimed at the mountain, saying, the people of the Black Hawk Hall were alarmed. Jun Changxiao immediately shouted, quick battle. Yes. The disciples immediately burst out with more strength and weapons, and then in a very short time, they killed all the remaining members of the hunting team. So far, the hunting team named after hunting others was hunted by the Iron Bone Sect. Search. Jun Changxiao said. The disciples licked the bags quickly and neatly, until all the space rings and other things were taken away, and they all used their body skills to evacuate. A few minutes later, the deputy hall master led more than 300 disciples down the mountain. When they saw the bodies of the hunting team members all over the intersection, they were furious. Who did it? The angry voice was transmitted in the air. Although Jun Changxiao heard it, he had already led his disciples to retreat to a more hidden area, and raised the 88 type sniper rifle, and fired 20 shots directly at the intersection. Bang, bang, bang. The 20 Black Eagle Hall disciples who were locked were alert at all times, but it was difficult to avoid the silent bullets, and they were finally killed on the spot. Seeing this, the Deputy Hall Master's face changed. He didn't dare to stand there and get angry, and hurriedly led his men to the sect. Jun Changxiao continued to load ammunition. After loading 20 bullets, the group of Black Eagle Hall people were already 1,000 meters away, so he gave up shooting. Swish. After throwing the gun to Zhao Zuji, he looked at the disciples and smiled. How do you feel about this killing journey? Very cool. Li Shangshan spoke first. Get lost. The VIP kicked him on the buttocks and said, you almost killed me, and you still have the nerve to enjoy yourself here. Brother Snake. Li Shangshan covered his buttocks and said apologetically, I'm sorry, I was too nervous at the beginning, and got you into trouble. Is it all over with just one apology? The VIP said, when we return to the sect, we must double the training to punish him. Ah. Li Shangshan almost jumped up and said, Brother Snake, I just killed 2 enemies. The VIP said, Shanqi helped, so the other one doesn't count. Plop. Li Shangshan collapsed on the grass, howling in his heart, this is cheating. Ha ha ha. Seeing that guy's face full of despair, the disciples who had just experienced the killing relaxed and laughed heartily. P.S. The one who entered the sect with Long Xiang was called Yang Yuhe. I wrote it as Li Yuhe before, but now I have changed it. You pretend not to know, and I will pretend that it never happened. Finally, happy National Day. Please recommend and vote for me. Chapter 229, A Telepathic Connection. The 100 members of the hunting team who walked down from the mountain gate, including the team leader and deputy team leader, were all killed in less than half an hour. Oh, no. There is still a survivor. His name is Ergauzi, and he is in great pain now. If he had a mobile phone, he would definitely post a circle of friends to ask for help online, because his body was completely frozen, like a lifelike ice sculpture. It was Lu Qian who sealed him, and it was Yang Yuhe who carried him over. Now, he was placed next to a stone, surrounded by disciples of the Iron Bone School, pointing and talking. The eldest sister is so fierce that she actually froze a living person. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. It must be cold to be sealed in there. More than just cold. Ergauzi, wrapped in ice, seemed to have fallen into an extremely cold hell at this moment, and was suffering indescribable pain. If he could choose, he would rather be shot in the head and beheaded by a sword than suffer such inhuman torture. Unfortunately, there is no choice, because he is fully responsible for every sentence and every word he just said. Master. Li Luoqiu's beautiful eyes were filled with murderous intent. She said, this guy is full of obscene words. If I don't torture him, I won't be able to swallow that breath. The fact that Li Tangsu was so angry showed that Ergauzi said a lot of disgusting things when he came down. Jun Chang smiled and said, leave it to you. Swish. Li Luoqiu waved his hand, and a shiny dagger appeared. Then he came to the ice sculpture and cut towards the arm. Crack. The ice fell, with flesh inside. Crack, crack, crack. Ergauzi's cut arm was exposed to the outside world. Before he could splatter blood, he was sealed by the icy air again. Does it hurt? It hurts so much. Ergauzi escaped from the extreme cold hell in an instant, and the pain was heartbreaking. His face was, well, he couldn't change. He was sealed by the ice. Swish, swish, swish. Li Luoqiu waved the dagger randomly, and the ice fell off layer by layer. Lu Qian stood by and seemed to be motionless, but she kept urging the cold air to seal the guy's exposed skin with ice. In front of the 2 women, Ergauzi was like being tortured by slow slicing. Too brutal. The Tegu sect disciples who had experienced killing turned their heads away when they saw this scary scene. Lingzhu. Li Luoqiu said, cut a piece of it too. Ah. Oh. Ling Yuangsu took the dagger, closed her eyes, and came to the ice sculpture, then turned her face and swung it. Crack. The ice wrapped the meat, and pieces fell off. In the end, the guy named Ergauzi was tortured to death alive. There is no need to describe how painful the whole process was. In short, as his companion said just now, He really died in the hands of women. Well, it's what he wanted. Being tortured to death under 3 peony flowers. It's also sad to be a ghost. The Tegu sect disciples who participated in the killing all killed people, and some killed more than one. In a cruel world, it is undoubtedly the most normal to experience such things, and it is also a kind of spiritual training. The one who has changed the most is Li Shangxian. He lay on the grass, always recalling the scene of killing just now. Although he was still a little scared at the beginning, he gradually realized that it was actually no big deal. Today, Li Shangxian said secretly, it is the day when I, Li Shangxian, sublimate. Ling Yuanxu also killed someone. But he killed with the help of his senior brother. Although he was still very scared, he also invisibly improved a lot of courage, which will definitely help in the future. Master, Li Luoqiu said, what should we do next? Jun Changxiao lay on the stone, holding a dogtail grass in the corner of his mouth, and said, so many disciples died, anyone with a little temper will definitely come out. Black Eagle Hall. Bang. The tea table was directly shattered by Lai Hisha's palm, and his body was filled with creepy anger and murderous intent. Just ordered the hunting team to act, but they all died at the foot of the mountain, after leaving the mountain gate. It must be hard to accept. It doesn't matter if ordinary disciples die. The members of the hunting team were all cultivated by himself with a lot of resources and efforts. Master, Yang Zhi frowned and said, the group of people who attacked down the mountain are not kind. Being able to kill all the members of the hunting team in a short time, and even the team leader died in front of the mountain gate, this is definitely not something that ordinary martial artists can do. Mr. Yang. Lai Hisha suppressed his anger and said, who dares to provoke me at the foot of Black Eagle Hall Mountain? It's hard to say. Yang Zhi had been thinking about the identity of the visitor, but after thinking for a long time, he still couldn't figure out who it was. The deputy hall master said, some time ago, we robbed the goods of the Thunderbolt Hall. Could it be them? Impossible. Before Yang Zhi could speak, Lai Hisha denied it first, saying, although the Thunderbolt Hall and my Black Eagle Hall are both 7th rate, they don't have this ability. Could it be? The deputy hall master said solemnly, was it done by a 6th rate sect? Yang Zhi shook his head and said, in recent years, every action has targeted 8th and 9th rate sects, and we have never provoked 6th rate sects. Lai Hisha said angrily, no matter who did it, anyone who killed my Black Eagle Hall must pay a heavy price. Mr. Yi, do you have any good ideas to counter this fucking attack? Yang Zhi said, according to what I saw at the mountain gate, the number of enemies is at least 70 or 80. The enemy is in the dark, and we are in the light, and they have powerful hidden weapons. It will be very passive to attack head on. Why not wait until night falls, quietly go around the cliffs of the back mountain, make sure the other party has not left, and then surround them from top to bottom to annihilate them in one fell swoop. Makes sense. Lai Hisha looked at the deputy hall master and said, third son, take a few helmsmen and disciples with strong body movements to go around the back mountain at night. Find the attackers, and send a signal. Yes. The deputy hall master left in a hurry. At the foot of Black Eagle Mountain, Zhirozuji always held the 88 type sniper rifle and carefully watched the gate of Black Eagle Hall with the help of the 8x scope. Li Qingyang and others scattered around, always paying attention to the surrounding movements. Jun Changxiao sat cross-legged on a rock and said, they haven't come out for so long. This doesn't seem like the style of an evil sect. Li Luoqiu said, our powerful fire guns kill people without being seen. They are not fools. They certainly don't dare to come out head on. That makes sense. Jun Changxiao continued to observe the map, then pointed to the outlined cliffs and said, do you think they will come down from here at night and go around to our rear? No way. Li Luoqiu said, the cliff walls are as smooth as a knife. They are at least several hundred feet high. If you fall down accidentally, even a martial artist will be seriously injured. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, it is definitely not normal for a sect headquarters to have only one road. This seemingly most dangerous place may be their retreat. Yang Zhi was thinking about coming down from the back mountain, and he thought so too. The two of them really have a tacit understanding. You stay here and guard. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, I'll take people to the back mountain to watch. After that, he led Zhirozuji and others to make a big circle and came to the back of a cliff about 1,000 meters high. There was a rushing torrent below. If someone fell from it, he would be washed to the ends of the earth by the water, even if he didn't die. Night fell. Master Ziozuji, who had been observing from above, whispered, "Someone is coming down." Jun Changxiao came over, took the gun, and aimed at it with an 8-fold scope. He could vaguely see in the moonlight that the Black Eagle Hall disciples gathered on the cliff. Then, dozens of people jumped down at the same time. Fuck. Looking at the black shadows falling, Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, "Even if it's bungee jumping, at least tie a rope around your legs. P.S. Happy National Day. Please recommend. Please vote please." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230 Kill in One Step. The Black Hawk Hall disciple jumped off the cliff without even tying a rope, which made Jun Changxiao admire him very much. He didn't think that these people jumped down without any safety facilities to play extreme death. So he continued to observe with an 8-fold mirror. Sure enough, when the Black Hawk Hall disciple fell into the air, his hands suddenly spread out, and wings similar to wings appeared, and then glided diagonally. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, "So there is a hang glider. This kind of thing, that is common on Earth, appears in the other world, which has a taste of black technology. It is obviously not the first time for the Black Hawk Hall people to jump off the cliff. After turning on the special hang glider, they skillfully control the direction and walk to the opposite flat ground. With so many birds, how can we not take the opportunity to shoot down a few?" Jun Changxiao set up the 88 type sniper rifle, turned on the enhanced mode, and locked it on the head of the last person. Swish. Pulling the trigger, the bullet went away silently and directly penetrated the disciple's forehead. The mind and body lost contact, and the balance was gone. Suddenly, it was like a crashed plane, spinning and falling into the river. The rapids were so powerful that the people in front did not realize that their companions were shot and washed away by the river. They were still concentrating on controlling the 2 pairs of gliders and continued to fly to the flat ground. Swish, swish, swish. Jun Changxiao pulled the trigger one after another, killing more than a dozen members, and then saw them falling one by one, drifting away with the current. This guy seemed to have landed in advance, holding a gun, turning on the plug-in and madly killing the people who were still parachuting. It felt really cool. Jun Changxiao didn't kill them all, and he had to leave some for his disciples, so he gave up shooting after killing more than 10. Tap, tap, tap. The deputy leader of the Black Hawk Hall and several helmsmen and others landed safely one after another. However, after everyone landed, after an inventory, they found that more than 10 people were missing, so they all stared at each other. "Deputy Hall Master," a helmsman whispered, "could it be that he made a mistake in operation and fell into the river?" "It's possible." The Deputy Hall Master said, "Never mind, let's search for the person in the dark first. After finding him, send a signal to inform the Hall Master and form a siege." Deputy Hall Master? Searching for a group of people, sending a signal, forming a siege. These keywords were all captured by the eavesdropping function of the 8-fold mirror. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "This little trick is quite good. Deputy Hall Master. This is a big fish." Jun Changxiao's 8-fold mirror always locked the target. Seeing that they were heading in his direction, he gave combat orders to his disciples. Swish. Leaking Gaiang, Ziozuji and others summoned weapons and iron shields. There were 23 people on the Tigu faction, and Yi Xingchen and Zhao Hong did not follow. The Black Eagle Hall also had more than 20 people. The Deputy Hall Master was a 2nd grade martial artist, and the 4 helmsmen were 1st grade martial artists. Without 2 main outputs, it was undoubtedly a test. However, Jun Changxiao is confident in his disciples and can easily deal with them, because can these people be stronger than high-grade beasts? Deputy Hall Master, who is the one who attacked our Black Hawk Hall? On the way, a helmsman said in a low voice. Another helmsman said, "Team leader Hao was killed. The other party is not simple." Humph. The deputy hall master said coldly, "Dare to come to our territory to kill our people. This old man is tired of hanging himself." Rustling. Suddenly, a slight sound came from my ears. "Someone." The deputy hall master whispered. In an instant, several men and more than a dozen disciples became alert, but squinting their eyes to observe the surroundings. There was no harvest at all. Could it be that they heard it wrong? Rustling. Rustling. A clearer sound of breaking wind came, as if it was nearby. The people of the Black Hawk Hall hurriedly gathered together and carefully observed the surroundings. But still no one was seen. In the dark night, there was a sound of stepping on the grass, but no trace could be seen, which was undoubtedly a bit creepy. A helmsman whispered, "Could it be the sound of the wind?" "Impossible." The deputy hall master said firmly, "It's clearly the sound of footsteps." Swish. Suddenly, a sword light flashed in the dark night. The sword light appeared very quickly, and when they caught it, it was gone. Plop. The disciple walking at the back fell to the ground with a bang, and his head fell somewhere unknown. There. A helmsman caught the figure of the fleeing person. Swish. 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 In a flash, several men behind him threw all kinds of things at him without saying a word. This reaction speed is worthy of the business of killing people and robbing goods. Ding. 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 After Suzuomo killed one person, she put a strong iron shield behind her while escaping, successfully blocking all the hidden weapons. No matter how fast the reaction is, it is useless in the face of a hard shield. Shashasha. On the other side, Li Fei stepped on the ghost step to get behind them, then jumped up and made a handsome volley. Swish. The stone of just the right size was dragged in an archon shot, and the target was the deputy hall master. Whoosh. The deputy hall master was not vague, catching the attack of the hidden object, gathering the spiritual energy of his arms to burst out, forming a layer of spiritual film in his fist, and slamming it over. Bang. The stone was directly shattered. The deputy hall master took a step back, his face suddenly looked shocked. It was obviously just an ordinary stone, but it contained such a strong power. How did he do it? After returning to the sect to practice for half a month, Li Fei's realm has advanced from the 7th level to the 8th level. He has also been practicing in the training tower. The power of his golden right foot has reached 25,000. You know, the power of a first level martial artist at the ordinary level is only about 25,000. What is this concept? Li Fei, who is only an 8th level martial artist, is comparable to a first level martial artist. He is so strong, not to mention Suzuomo, who has a top grade spiritual root. No wonder he can kill a person silently. Rustle. After the two of them made their move, they did not continue to kill and attack, but kept shuttling back and forth with ghost steps, dazzling everyone in the Black Eagle Hall. "Let's do it," Jun Changxiao whispered. Li Qingyang, Zio Zuji and others who were lurking nearby rushed over quickly. They had dispersed early in advance, and once they took action, they immediately formed an encirclement. This time, Li Qingyang was no longer unarmed. He sacrificed the cold sword, locked onto the deputy hall master, and rushed over first. Zio Zuji clenched his fist and locked onto the strongest of the several helmsmen. The people of the Black Eagle Hall naturally discovered them. Some of them used their weapons, and some threw hidden weapons. Unfortunately, under the protection of the iron shield and the seal, this hidden weapon with a force of tens of thousands of pounds could not pose any threat at all. Swish. Li Qingyang rushed over first. The 9-layered wave sword was immediately used, and layers of waves of energy filled the air, instantly entangled the deputy hall master. On the other side, Zio Zuji was more direct. He rushed in front of his opponent, and swept over with his mountain-splitting palm. The helmsman sneered, and met him with a sharp sword, infused with spiritual energy. "Although your palm is powerful, how can it be compared with my sword?" Bang. The palm carrying the strongest power slammed on the blade and directly broke it. The smile on the helmsman's face suddenly solidified. Snap. Zio Zuji reached out with his other hand and grabbed the broken sword that fell. He took a step forward sideways, and the blade flashed white light, mercilessly slashing across the opponent's neck. Step. He steadied himself and stood behind. Puff. The helmsman's head flew out, his eyes showing horror. It can be seen that he was thinking before he died, how could that guy's flesh and blood palm cut off his sword without any damage? because when the power reaches the extreme, the palm can be compared with the blade. From the palm to grabbing the broken blade, and then taking a step to cut off the head. Zyuozuji's action was really clean and neat, and it can be called a textbook level one-step kill. PS. The 5th update is here. Please vote for the monthly ticket. Please recommend the ticket, and all kinds of requests. Chapter 231 Kill all these evil people. Puff. The deputy hall master at the other end was pierced through the chest by the cold sword. Although he was a 2nd grade martial artist, he could only symbolically resist 2 moves against the 9th grade martial artist, Li Qingyang, who had the best qualifications. This was considered special care. With the true strength of our great genius Li, it would be enough to kill him with just one encounter. Puff. The deputy hall master knelt on the ground, his eyes unfocused. He flew down from the cliff like a juggler, but ended up dying like this, which was something he had never expected. As for the other 3 helmsmen, one was killed by Suzaomo's sword, one was killed by Shan Qi, and the last one died under Long Xiang's overlord spear. TSK. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, that kid's strength is not bad either. Long Xiang would definitely cry if he heard it. Master, I have always been very strong, but when we were in the Death Valley, the performances of the inner sect brothers were more evil than each other, and my glory was completely overshadowed. Seeing the deputy hall master and the helmsman all killed, the disciples of the Black Hawk Hall were horrified and wanted to retreat. Retreat? That was impossible. From the moment they jumped off the cliff, they were doomed to die, not from falling, but from being killed. Puff. Puff. Zhang Wei and 10 other disciples, like wolves and tigers, held the cold sword and the overlord key, killing with strong power. Kakaka. Lu Qian raised her right hand with a bracelet, and the cold air filled the air, instantly freezing an enemy, and said, Junior Sister Ling, go kill him. Okay. Ling Yuangsu walked over carefully with the sword, and then swung the sword to kill. When she killed Ergaozi just now, she still closed her eyes. Now that she can open them, it is the best proof of her growth. Under the brutal and ruthless killing of the Iron Bone disciples, all the people of the Black Hawk Hall fell to the ground, leaving no one alive. Old rules. Everyone began to search their bodies, and found a lot of space rings. It's not surprising that the people of the Black Hawk Hall, especially the leaders, have really good stuff in their rings. There are 70,000 or 80,000 silver notes alone, and there are also many crystal cores. Jun Changxiao accepted all the things and said, robbing these evil sects is not a bad way to make money. Master. Suzaomo searched the deputy hall master for an item similar to a fire starter and said, what is this? Jun Changxiao took it, and observed it carefully and said, it may be a signal gun or something like that. Thinking of what the deputy hall master said just now, he understood that the people in the Black Hawk Hall base camp should be waiting for the people below to send a signal, and then lead the crowd to kill, and form a siege. This is an opportunity. We can make good use of it. Jun Changxiao said, male disciples, take off all the clothes of these people and change them. Yes. Although they didn't understand what it meant, the disciples still did it. Soon, Li Qingyang, Zyuozuji and others put on the Black Hawk Hall school uniforms engraved with the word eagle. Although they didn't fit well, they were still passable. Oh my god. Suzaomo pinched her nose and said, what a strong body odor. Let's go. Jun Changxiao said, go back. Everyone returned the same way. After reuniting with Xiao Hall, Jun Changxiao said, has anyone come out of the mountain gate? No. Li Luoqiu said. When she saw Li Qingyang and others wearing the school uniforms of the Black Eagle Hall, she was puzzled and asked, Master, are you going to let them in? No. Jun Changxiao sat on the stone, thought for a while, and said, lure all the rats up there. Li Luoqiu was at a loss. Jun Changxiao called his disciples to him, and began to make the next deployment. Do you understand? I understand. Everyone said in unison. Jun Changxiao jumped down from the stone, and then led everyone to a more secluded area, and took out a thing similar to a fire starter. How to use it? He played with it for a while, and found that the bottom was a little loose. He tried to press it down, and a strange smoke suddenly came out from the front. Master Jun was afraid that it was poisonous, and hurriedly held his breath. He was overthinking. The smoke was not poisonous, but carried a relatively light smell, like dust, drifting towards the direction of Black Eagle Mountain, and finally blending into the hall. Laisha, who was waiting anxiously, smelled the smell and grinned. The deputy hall master has sent a signal. Mr. Yang, can we act now? Yes. Yang Zhi said. Swish. Laisha took a big step forward and snapped his fingers, and more than 300 disciples suddenly poured out of the inner courtyard. They did not go out from the gate, but jumped over the wall, and then followed the hall master down the stone stairs. It's really a signal gun. Jun Changxiao on the tree, wearing glare sunglasses, saw a group of people coming down through 8 times. Among them, the strongest one is a peak martial artist, and he also has a top-grade spiritual root. It is speculated that he should be the Hall Master of the Black Eagle Hall. For a 7th-rate sect leader, it is already very good to have a cultivation of a peak martial artist. You know, Qin Horan, a 6th-rate sect leader, has just entered the martial arts sect. Of course, Jun Changxiao knew that the strength of the Black Hawk Hall Master was definitely not a natural talent, but must be related to the practice of evil techniques. So when facing such an insidious opponent, he must take it seriously. Zhao Han, Jun Changxiao said, there is a peak martial artist among the people coming down. I will hand it over to you later. Yes, Zhao Han replied. After returning to the sect, this sword cultivator did not go to the trial tower for training, but devoted himself to comprehending the Lingjian divine art. Although it has only been half a month, from the sword force that is intentionally or unintentionally revealed in his eyes, it can be seen that there should be good progress. Jun Changxiao also asked him, don't you temper your body? Zhao Han replied, when a sword cultivator comprehends the way of the sword, it is equivalent to tempering the body. Just standing still, can it be tempered? Jun Changxiao couldn't understand this special profession, so he just let it go. Master, Yi Xingchen said calmly, I can get rid of that peak martial artist without Brother Zhao's help. This is the leader of the evil sect. Who knows if he has any sinister and vicious martial arts? Jun Chang smiled and said, are you sure? I'm sure. Yi Xingchen said calmly, a 7th-rate evil sect leader is nothing to him. Back then, he killed many evil sect martial emperors and martial saints. In that case, Jun Chang smiled and said, the leader is in your hands. After making the arrangements, he said, everyone proceed according to the plan. Yes. The members of Xiao Hall moved the deputy leader of the Black Eagle Hall and his subordinates over. These corpses had changed into the school uniforms of the Iron Bone Sect early. Then someone fell to the side, and the appearance was like playing dead. Yes, it was playing dead. Li Qingyang and others held the weapons of the Black Eagle Hall and pretended to fight. It seemed that the two sides had fought each other. The current situation of the Iron Bone Sect disciples was dead or injured. The most exaggerated one was Li Shangshan. Lying on the ground, with a crooked mouth and sticking out tongue, he looked like a hanged ghost. The most professional ones were the VIP and his friends, who fell beside the deputy hall master and smeared blood on their faces. Swish, swish, swish. Behind him, on the stairs leading to Black Eagle Mountain, Laisha led his disciples to rush down, and then followed the smell to find them. With the help of the moonlight, he vaguely saw his own people and the bodies lying on the grass. What's going on? Sanzi and his friends have already started. Damn it. I thought they were some great people, but it turns out that they can easily deal with them by going around from the back. Thinking of how he had been holding back on the mountain for most of the day, Laisha shouted angrily, surround them and cut all these guys into pieces. Yes. The disciples accelerated forward. However, only Yang Zhi frowned. He always felt that the situation was not right, or it shouldn't be so smooth. Swish. Laisha had already rushed to the first corpse, used his weapon to chop the sword at the back, and smiled with satisfaction. Sanzi, you did a great job. However, the deputy hall master had his back to him the whole time. Laisha was puzzled, and then walked over. But just as he took a step, Yang Zhi behind him exclaimed, Hall master, he doesn't. Bang. A stream of light bullets burst out and pierced his forehead directly. Before Yang Zhi finished speaking, his pupils had already blurred, and he fell straight down. After killing this dog-headed military advisor, the disciples who were lying on the ground pretending to be dead jumped up one after another, and the members of Xiao Hall who were lying in ambush in the distance also appeared. All disciples, listen to my orders. Jun Changxiao's cold voice resounded in the mountains and fields. Kill all these treacherous people. Yes. P.S. There will be one more update at 0 hours. Please vote. Chapter 232 Mowing the Grass. Jun Changxiao asked his disciples to pretend to be members of the Black Eagle Hall, simply because it was dark. If it had been half a day, they would have been discovered at a glance. Yang Zhi found out something was wrong, but as soon as he opened his mouth to remind him, he was shot in the head by Li Luoqiu. When he fell to the ground, Lai Hisha and his men were stunned. Swish. The disciples who were hiding on the ground and pretending to be dead stood up and took out all their weapons. Disciples, listen to my order. Jun Changxiao said coldly, kill all these evil people. Yes. The disciples burst out with spiritual energy and killed them. Although they were far less in number than the 300 people in the Black Eagle Hall, they were not afraid at all after several rounds of killing. Third son, Lai Hisha said in a deep voice, what's going on? This guy hadn't figured it out yet and hadn't realized that he had fallen into a trap by bringing his disciples down the mountain. Li Qingyang, disguised as the deputy hall master, turned around and the spiritual energy was poured into the cold sword, which flashed and reflected his appearance. Seeing this, Lai Hisha said with a cold look, you are not Senzi. Samzi? You are talking about him, right? Li Qingyang kicked the corpse under his feet. Lai Hisha saw Sanzi's face through the sword light, and his eyes suddenly filled with rage. Pachi. Just at this moment, a voice came from behind. The sharp sword in the hands of the venomous snake directly pierced the chest of a Black Eagle Hall disciple. Previously, he was injured by Li Shangshan and did not take action. He must have been holding back a lot of energy in his heart and wanted to vent it out. With the first disciple being killed, the battle between the two sects officially began. The spiritual energy of both sides burst out, and they immediately fought into a group. The Black Eagle Hall, which had an advantage in numbers, should have been able to counterattack well, but when fighting with the disciples of the Iron Bone Sect, they suddenly felt a lot of pressure. Especially the disciples holding swords and knives. Their weapons were cut off by Zhang Wei and others at a glance, and they were stunned on the spot. Pachi. Pachi. The sword light flashed, and the limbs flew everywhere. In just one round of competition, more than 30 Black Hawk Hall disciples died. The dual suppression of cultivation and equipment, even if they have the advantage in numbers, they are just a group of weeds. These people died clearly. Next, many Black Hawk Hall disciples died very aggrieved because they were either shot by hidden weapons or ambushed. The members of Xiao Hall wandered around the battlefield like ghosts. They fully exerted their killer skills, which was really hard to guard against. Swords, guns, and various hidden weapons flashed frequently on the battlefield. The Black Hawk Hall disciples were ruthlessly killed and fell one after another. Lai Hisha still stood there. He did not make a move because his eyes were always locked on Li Qingyang, and the murderous intent in his eyes became more and more intense. At the door of his own home, the hunting group was destroyed and the deputy hall master was killed. It was really unbearable and unacceptable. Who? With his fists clenched, a stream of blood red air spread out, exuding a sinister aura. Hey. Yi Xingchen came over, stood opposite him, and said proudly, your opponent is me. Junior brother, leave it to you. Li Qingyang said, I'll deal with the others. As he said that, he used his body skills to circumvent, then rushed into the enemy group, and started a crazy killing. Zhao Hang also joined the battle. This guy's really fierce. He seemed to be walking leisurely, but he slashed dozens of swords in a breath. The surrounding Black Hawk disciples fell to the ground on the spot, with tiny sword marks on their necks. The sword was so fast that even the sword light could not be seen. TSK. Jun Chang smiled and said, I'm afraid he can destroy all the Black Hawk disciples present. This is the strongest output of my Tegu school. Are you afraid? Afraid. The Black Hawk disciples were very afraid. They originally wanted to stabilize the situation and organize an effective counterattack, but when they saw Zhao Han kill dozens of people with one sword, their eyes were suddenly filled with horror. When two armies fight, morale is the most important thing. Now, seeing the death of a large number of companions, the Black Hawk disciples suffered a serious blow. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Li Qingyang, Xiao Zuji and others accelerated the harvesting speed and killed everyone in one blow wherever they passed. The head of the sect just said that all these evil people must be killed, so what he could do was to make sure they didn't even have a chance to escape. The Black Eagle Hall realized that the opponent was too strong and hurriedly shrank the defense line and moved together. Boom. 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 Yang Yuhe held up a strong iron shield and rushed in like a mad bull, instantly knocking away more than a dozen enemies and tearing the defense line apart. Long Xiang and others came up with guns, harvesting the Black Eagle Hall disciples in a whirlwind. For a moment, broken limbs, broken arms, and blood were flying in the air. Unfortunately, it was dark. If it were daytime, the scene of mowing the grass would be even more shocking. The disciples of the Black Hawk Hall were even more horrified when they saw how terrifying they were. They all huddled together like frightened mice. This would only allow the Iron Bone Sect to surround them, and they would not even have a chance to run. They could not sit and wait for death, and they had to fight back. A helmsman shouted angrily, "Kill!" Bang! The bullet pierced his forehead and his body fell to the ground. Li Luoqiu, who was standing on the tree, smiled and said, "I only shoot the first bird to stick out." Boom. Boom. Yang Yuhe held up a strong iron shield and formed a seal shield, just like a bulldozer, knocking all the disciples of the Black Hawk Hall away wherever he passed. Long Xiang and others followed all the way, like sharp spears constantly picking and killing targets. Just by charging back and forth a few times, they killed 50 or 60 people. In a short period of time, more than 100 of the more than 300 disciples of the Black Hawk Hall had died. The bodies were scattered everywhere, like a slaughterhouse. Jun Changxiao was watching from the sidelines and murmured, according to their efficiency, they should be able to finish them all in half an hour. As he spoke, he looked at Lai Hisha. His disciples were killed one by one, but he still stood there motionless. But the blood-red light gathered in his fist became more and more intense. Yi Xingchen raised his eyebrows and said disdainfully, "Are you performing a power accumulating martial arts? Seen through? It doesn't matter, because the power has been accumulated. Trample." Lai Hisha suddenly turned around, angrily swung out the fist that condensed the violent blood-red power, and shouted angrily, "Today, you all have to die." Boom. A punch hit the void. Whoosh. A strong wind suddenly rose, and the evil air spread. Only to see that at the location where Lai Hisha was bombarded, a huge blood-red fist appeared out of thin air and blasted towards the Tegu sect disciple behind him. He didn't have time to fight Yi Xingchen alone, so he had to use the explosive evil sect technique to wipe out all the enemies behind him, so as to reverse the defeat of his disciples. Whoosh! The 3-meter-long blood-red fist, like a small mountain, swept over the grass, bursting with powerful force, and formed grooves wherever it passed. Strong power and fast speed. The people who were madly slaughtering the Black Eagle Hall disciples looked back, and their faces changed greatly. Swish. Xiao Zuji rushed over with a strong iron shield erected in front of him, looking for death. Lai Hisha sneered in his heart. His long-prepared blood-exploding fist had a power of more than 100,000 pounds, enough to be comparable to a first-class martial artist. How could that guy resist with a shield? Boom. The blood-red fist hit the shield directly. Lai Hisha's eyes gradually widened, and his eyes were filled with horror. Chapter 233 The Wonderful Use of Killing. The previous leader of the Black Hawk Hall had obtained a top-grade mental method and a top-grade boxing method. The mental method is called the Blood Demon Sutra, which can forcibly reverse blood, thereby achieving the ultimate improvement of cultivation. With this mental method, the disciples of the Black Hawk Hall can achieve a good improvement without absolutely sufficient resources. Lai Hisha has a deep understanding of the Blood Demon Sutra, so he has broken through to the peak martial arts master. As for the boxing method, it is the Blood Explosion Fist. This skill needs to be used with the Blood Demon Sutra to stimulate the blood in the body, and can blast out a blood fist from a distance, with a very explosive force. The disadvantage is obvious, it takes time to accumulate power. When the disciples were slaughtered one after another, Lai Hisha was accumulating power, and finally completed and performed it. With the blessing of cultivation and skills, the huge blood fist condensed out has a power of more than 100,000 pounds. It is comparable to the explosive power of an ordinary first-grade martial arts master. If it touches the disciples of the Iron Bone School, they will definitely be blasted into slag. At the critical moment, our main tank Zyuzuji, holding a strong iron shield, stood on the path that the blood fist must pass through, setting up a defense for the junior brothers behind him. The disciple, who was a little panicked, suddenly felt a strong sense of security when he saw his senior brother standing in front of him. Zyuzuji, who dared to use his remaining body to resist hundreds of thousands of forces in front of the fire dragon beast, looked at the blood explosion fist with disdain. He didn't even open the defensive barrier. This is really disrespectful to the opponent and the evil sect's skills. Boom. In the end, the blood fist that looked like a small mountain hit the iron shield hard, and the air wave that exuded evil spirits spread. Zyuzuji stood as steady as a mountain and resisted all the power that exploded. Even though the power of this punch has exceeded 100,000 pounds, as long as it doesn't reach the level of the fire dragon beast, there are only 3 words to shake him: impossible. Laihisha, who has absolute confidence in the blood explosion fist, widened his eyes and looked unbelievable. His punch is comparable to that of a first-grade martial arts master. The young man who rushed over is only a martial arts apprentice. How could he resist it with just a shield? Step. Zyuzuji took a step forward and pushed his bloody fist back half a meter. Then his muscles burst with blue veins, and he pushed it out fiercely with a sudden force. Boom. The bloody fist hit the unmanned rock on the side, instantly shattering it and dissipating because of the weakening of the force. Laihisha was stunned. Not only was his bloody fist resisted, but it was also pushed out by him. This was simply unimaginable. Swish. Suddenly, a sword light flashed behind him, causing his pupils to shrink, and he hurriedly used his body skills to dodge. Yi Xingchen held the sword and walked towards him step by step, his eyes flashing coldly. I have already said that your opponent is me, but you use martial arts to hit others. Are you looking down on yourself? Bastard. He said coldly, prepare to die. Swish, swish, swish. He swung the sword 3 times in a row, and 3 sword lights burst out, like spiritual power type martial arts. Huh. Jun Changxiao was surprised. That guy seemed to casually slash out 3 swords, but the sword light formed by them looked so much like my sword. It was my sword. When Yi Xingchen was practicing, he had an idea and used it skillfully on the sword. Not to mention, this kind of spiritual power martial arts can not only be used alone, but also fit well with weapons. After the sword energy converges, the power is greatly improved. Not good. Laihisha's face changed drastically, and he hurriedly stimulated his blood and stepped on his body to avoid it. This is blessed by the evil body skills. If it were an ordinary person, he couldn't dodge it and could only take it hard. After killing an enemy, Li Qingyang happened to see junior brother Yu using sword energy, and his eyes suddenly showed a hint of enlightenment. It turns out that my sword can be played like this. Swish. He poured spiritual energy into the sword, silently operated the formula of my sword, and shouted, I sword. Swish. The martial arts and sword energy instantly fit perfectly, bursting out a sword light, and attacked at an extremely fast speed, instantly killing an enemy 20 meters away on the spot. Oh my god. Suzume was surprised when she saw this. So powerful. I chop, I chop, I chop, 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 chop. He imitated her and merged his martial arts with the cold sword and immediately chopped out 3 spiritual sword auras, sweeping over the grass closely. Puff, puff, puff. The 3 Black Eagle Hall disciples had difficulty dodging and were finally killed on the spot by the unparalleled sword aura. Li Fei, Shanqi and others saw this and immediately followed suit. For a moment, all the Iron Bone School disciples swung their swords out, condensing a series of eye chops suitable for long-range attacks. Using swords to attack, this eye chop can be regarded as a real eye chop. Jun Chang smiled and said, I didn't expect that the martial arts transformed by the mysterious great power could also be used on weapons. Nonsense. The system said, otherwise, how can it be described as omnipresent? Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, Xingchen is quite smart. He actually thought of using it on weapons. Lord Yidi is really smart in martial arts attainments. It's just that he is limited by his body and has just started his rebirth, so many advantages are difficult to bring into play for the time being. This attainment is particularly outstanding in actual combat. Look, after the attack, he rushed forward with the step-by-step dragon and chopped at the dodging Laihisha. Although the skills of evil martial artists are evil, they all have a common problem. The greater the power, the longer the power is stored. As long as you press step by step and don't give him a chance to display it, it is equivalent to wasting half of his martial arts. Sure enough, Laihisha dodged in a hurry and couldn't be distracted to display his skills. Yi Xingchen seized this opportunity and instantly got close to him. His wrist shook frequently and the sword light flashed one after another. Bang, bang, bang. The sword energy rushed and slammed on the grass, showing deep sword marks. Although Laihisha could dodge with his body skills, he was also in a very awkward situation. At this time, the disciples of Tegu sect used their weapons to perform the eye slash to frantically kill the remaining members of the Black Hawk Hall, especially the members of Xiao Hall. After mastering the magical skills of spiritual power-based martial arts, they relied on their body skills to constantly move around and bombard with weapons, just like laying a net of heaven and earth. The only thing waiting for the disciples of the Black Hawk Hall was death. Their morale had already dropped greatly, and now they saw the sword energy flying around, and despair appeared in their terrified eyes, and finally, they were tragically killed. With the magical use of Ice Slash, the Tegu sect was more relaxed when mowing the grass, so as soon as Yi Xingchen started fighting, hundreds of members of the Black Hawk Hall died. When Laihisha dodged, he saw that only 100 of the more than 300 disciples were left, and he roared with bloodshot eyes. These are the main disciples. If so many died at once, the sect must be seriously injured. Swish, the sword light came faster than before. Puff. Laihisha was unable to dodge, and his right shoulder was scratched, blood gushing out. At this time, he finally realized that he should not consider the sect, but how to survive. Retreat. As soon as the thought came to his mind, he took action. The blood in his body burned wildly, and he was about to rush out with a body movement of the sect. If the opponent was leaking Guiyang, he might succeed. But he was facing Yi Xingchen. When he felt the evil energy burst out, he immediately stepped forward. His wrist shook quickly, and he performed a one-word quick formula. Swish, swish, swish. Sword lights burst out one after another, a total of 35 swords. In the Death Valley, Yi Xingchen used 30 swords in one breath, and now there are 5 more swords, which means that he has tempered his body for half a month, and has not wasted his comprehension of the Lingjian divine formula. Laihisha, who had just stimulated his blood to escape, felt the sword energy behind him, and his pupils suddenly shrank. He roared in unwillingness. No. Swish, swish. 35 sword energies intersected and instantly chopped the Black Hawk Hall master into pieces. At the moment of his death, an old man who was practicing in the secret room suddenly opened his eyes and said with murderous intent, "Who dares to kill my beloved disciple?" Chapter 234, Black Hawk Hall, expelled from the Jianghu. After Laihisha was chopped into pieces by Yi Xingchen, an old man who was thousands of miles away seemed to feel it, and his eyes suddenly showed murderous intent. He was the first head of the Black Eagle Hall. No one knew his name. The disciples called him the head of the hall, and the people in the evil sect called him Ghost Old. Why was he called Ghost Old? Because this first head of the hall had a very strong understanding of body skills, and when he used them, he was as erratic as a ghost. Laihisha was Ghost Old's favorite disciple. He went out to comprehend higher martial arts, and passed the sect to him. Now that he suddenly lost contact, he realized that he had encountered an unexpected event. Who dare to kill my beloved disciple? Ghost Old's gloomy eyes flashed with creepy murderous intent, and he broke out of the hole, like a ghost rushing in the night, and the direction he went to was exactly Huaiying County. This speed, this body skill. The word ghost deserves it. Ghost Old's strength is also good. After resigning as the head of the hall, he has been comprehending the Blood Demon Sutra, and has broken through to the 3rd grade martial arts master. Whoever kills my disciple will be punished with the 9 clans, and will never be reborn. Endless angry voices came from the mountains and fields, scaring the wild beasts to flee. At the foot of Black Eagle Mountain, After Lahisha was killed, the Black Eagle Hall disciples who were still fighting desperately, the only remaining mentality completely collapsed, and were finally killed on the spot by the Iron Bone School disciples. So far, a 7th-rate evil sect, including the Hall Master and the sect's elite, were all wiped out. There are still people in the sect on the mountain, but they are just a bunch of small fish. Search. After everything was done, Jun Chang smiled. The disciples started to plunder and confiscated many space rings one after another. Blood Demon Sutra, Blood Explosion Fist, Blood Explosion Step. Jun Changxiao merged into Lahisha's ring and searched for 3 top-grade evil sect skills that Black Eagle Hall used to establish itself in the martial arts world. Although it was useless, he still put it in his own space ring. Martial arts skills are something that can only be complained about less, not more. The system said, the evil sect's skills take an extreme route. The host had better not practice them easily, so as not to stifle the future martial arts. I know my limits, Jun Changxiao said with a smile. After searching all the disciples, he burned all the bodies with exquisite fire, then looked at the Black Eagle Hall on the mountain and said coldly, go up the mountain to destroy the sect. Yes. The disciples rushed up. The Black Eagle Hall, a 7th-rate sect, has a total of only 500 or 600 people. The Hall Master and the elite were all killed, and there were not many left at the headquarters. When Ziozuji blasted open the door with a heavy punch, all the disciples of the Iron Bone Sect rushed in and destroyed them all. If it was a decent organization, Jun Changxiao might leave them alive, but killing this kind of evil sect disciple is the best choice. Old rules, keep searching. Not long after, Suzuomo found the Black Eagle Hall treasure house first. Pushing open the heavy stone door, the screen full of pearls and precious stones shot in, piercing his eyes, so that he couldn't open them. Oh my god. After adapting, Suzuomo looked at the mountains of gold and silver, and said in disbelief, so many gold and silver treasures. Jun Changxiao rushed over after hearing the news. After a preliminary estimate, the value should be tens of millions of taels, and he couldn't help but sigh. This 7th stream sect is quite rich. The Black Eagle Hall is doing the same robbery business as the robbers, so it must be rich. What a pity. I didn't have the life to spend it, and it was all taken away by Jun Changxiao. Later, a disciple found a secret room in Lahisha's residence, which still had more than 500 spirit stones. Needless to say, it was taken away. After a looting, all the valuable things in the Black Eagle Hall, including martial arts, weapons, etc., were taken away by Jun Changxiao. The space ring that increased the storage capacity by 5 times suddenly seemed to be much more substantial. OJ8K, retreat. Whoosh. When everyone went down the mountain, the Black Eagle Hall headquarters suddenly burst into flames, and the century-old building was burned to ashes. It is not difficult to imagine that when the people of Huaing County learned that the 7th stream evil sect was destroyed, it would definitely cause a huge sensation. Cousin, I will avenge you. When all the people from the Tigu sect had evacuated, a warrior came out of the dark stone with his fists clenched. With the help of the night light, it can be seen that this person is Delu, the green turban warrior who was beaten by Jun Changxiao when he went to Qingyang City to recruit disciples. After the Lingquan sect was destroyed, didn't he go to join the Shengquan sect? Yes. Delu went to join. After a difficult assessment, he became an entry-level disciple. The so-called entry-level disciples are lower in rank than the outer disciples. What they do every day is either chopping wood and fetching water, or running errands, which is no different from servants. In order to avenge the former sect master, Delu endured hardships and devoted himself to cultivation. Now he has opened up 10 meridians. Half a month ago, the sect had a task to deliver a letter to Huaing County, so he rushed over. After completing the task, he was about to return. He met his distant cousin in the city by chance. He learned that he had joined the sect, so he came to visit the Black Eagle Hall. Delu's cousin wanted to take the opportunity to persuade his cousin to join the Black Eagle Hall. Who would have thought that the sect would be destroyed on the second day after he arrived? As for Delu, because he had a drink with his cousin and got up at night to urinate, he was confused and took the wrong road, wandering around the back mountain for most of the day. Then he heard the sect screaming, the alcohol dissipated, and people hid cleverly. Later, Jun Changxiao took his disciples away. He used the flame to see the appearance clearly and immediately recognized that this was the murderer who destroyed my Iron Bone Sect. Delu is really good. Our Jun sect leader traveled to another world and destroyed 2 sects one after another. He was at the scene and he survived. So sometimes when luck comes, you can't die, even if you want to. When you are unlucky, you can be killed by a falling plaque when you go out to urinate. Jun Changxiao. Delu clenched his fists and roared in his heart, the brother of the second uncle's sister-in-law who killed my grandmother's mother's father. This hatred is irreconcilable. Cousin. He turned around, looked at the raging flames, and swore secretly, I will avenge you. Delu was also very smart. He didn't leave immediately. He was afraid that the people of the Tegu sect were waiting below, so he hid in the dark and hurried down the mountain until dawn. However, as he just walked down the mountain pass, a cold wind blew. An old man with black hair suddenly stood beside him, his eyes flashing with creepy murderous intent. Delu, who was worried about being discovered by the Tegu sect, suddenly found someone appearing out of thin air and said in horror, "Ghost." Pop. The ghost old man who came at a high speed, clasped his neck, and a strange breath instantly enveloped him and penetrated into the sea of consciousness. This is an extremely domineering evil sect method of acquiring memory. The performer can forcibly search the target's memory to obtain the information he wants. A little while, the old ghost let go of his hand, his eyes dark, and he said, the Tegu sect not only killed my beloved disciple, but also destroyed my Black Eagle Hall. I will pay you back 1,000 times for this. Swish. As soon as he finished speaking, he disappeared, and the place he went to was Qingyang County, obviously to avenge his beloved disciple and the sect who were killed and destroyed. As for Delu, his memory was forcibly taken, and he collapsed on the ground, holding his head and howling in pain, and his mind gradually disappeared. There are 2 consequences of being violently taken into the sea of consciousness by the evil power. One is to be unconscious and crazy. The second is to die on the spot. I'm going to die. Delu, who still has a trace of thinking, can deeply feel that his life is passing away bit by bit. The revenge of the previous sect master and the revenge of his cousin have not been avenged, and he doesn't want to die. A strong desire to survive rises in his heart, but it is difficult to reverse the passing of life, and death is getting closer and closer. I don't want to die. I'm not willing. Suddenly, Delu's body was enveloped by a ball of green light, and even his black hair turned green. The life force that was about to dissipate also miraculously recovered. Chapter 235 The Counterattack of the Little People. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, punish the evil, and eliminate the traitors, and gaining 500 contribution points. Ding. Contribution value of the sect. 780 thousandths. This was the system prompt that came from Jun Changxiao on the way down the mountain after he set fire to the Black Eagle Hall. Previously, he destroyed the Black Wind Village and completed a task of eliminating harm for the people. Today, he destroyed the Black Eagle Hall and completed a task of punishing evil and eliminating traitors. It seems that the system wants him to be a person who enforces justice on behalf of heaven. Enforcing justice on behalf of heaven? I don't know if there is such a hidden task. On the way back to Qingyang County, Jun Changxiao kept thinking about idioms, such as waiting for the rabbit by the tree and pulling up the seedlings to help them grow. However, there are too many idioms, and no one knows which one is the task and how to complete it. He sighed and said to himself, I have no idea at all. The system said, hidden tasks are up to fate, and the host does not need to think about them. Okay. Jun Changxiao said, after returning, I can only earn contribution points by recruiting disciples. Without a moment's rest, he took his disciples back to Qingyang County overnight. When they had been gone for 2 or 3 hours, Gui Lao chased after them from thousands of miles away and obtained everything from Delu's memory. The disciple was killed, and the sect was destroyed. All this was related to the Tegu sect, so he chased after them and secretly vowed to repay 1,000-fold. However, what Gui Lao could not have imagined was that the martial artist who was like an ant and whose memory he had extracted did not die, but miraculously survived. when his vitality became vigorous again. Delu, who was lying on the ground, also had a dazed look on his face. He really didn't understand why he was still alive. Could it be that his own misery and unwillingness deeply moved the god? Delu gently raised his hand and found that his skin had turned from green to normal. He couldn't help but wonder, what was that green light just now? Swish. He jumped up and made sure that he was safe. He hurriedly left Black Eagle Mountain and swore to himself on the way, Jun Changxiao, and that ghost-like guy, wait for me. Just at this moment, Ghost Old Man appeared in front of him again without anyone noticing, and said in surprise, "You are still alive under my soul-stealing technique, little guy. You are not simple." Delu's face changed drastically, and he turned around and fled the next second. Unfortunately, just when he turned around, Ghost Old Man had already reached out his hand. This time he didn't grab his neck, but grabbed his head and said grimly, "I want to take a good look at what secrets you have hidden in you." The soul-stealing technique was performed, and it instantly poured into the sea of consciousness. Delu, who had experienced it once, begged for mercy in fear. Senior, don't kill. The screams resounded in the night sky, making people shudder. Plop. He fell to his knees and then collapsed on the ground. It was not Delu who fell on the ground, but Guilao. He lay on the ground with his eyes wide open, his body enveloped by clusters of green light. His limbs began to shrink rapidly, and finally only skin and bones were left. Swoosh, the green light flew up and quickly merged into Delu's body. Hoo-hoo. In an instant, streams of pure spiritual energy gathered in his danshan, not only quickly breaking through the 11th and 12th meridians, but also helping him to condense the cyclone, breaking through to the 7th grade martial arts apprentice in one fell swoop. The whole process happened in a very short time. When everything was over, Delu, who was still begging for mercy, saw the old guy dying in front of him like a mummy, and was so scared that he collapsed on the spot. Why? What's going on? Feeling the strong power gathering in his body, he was dumbfounded on the spot. After a long time, when Delu completely adapted, he was sure that he had suddenly become stronger, and it was not a little bit stronger. Suddenly, he found that his hands turned green again. The flowers and plants in the area where his palms were pressed were withering rapidly, as if they had lost their vitality. At the same time, a stream of weak spiritual power flowed into his body from his palms. Although it didn't have much effect, he could clearly capture it. Delu understood in an instant that the weak spiritual power came from the flowers and plants. Did he absorb the spiritual power inside by touching them? Looking at the old man lying beside him like a dried corpse, his eyes gradually turned from dull to ecstatic, and finally he couldn't help but secretly said, "Can I devour other people's spiritual power?" In order to confirm his guess, Delu hurriedly stood up, came to a big tree, and put one palm on the bark. Sure enough, when the green palm touched the tree, it quickly extracted the vitality inside. The towering tree, which was still very vigorous, withered quickly, and the yellowed leaves fell in pieces. At the same time, the absorbed spiritual power was transformed into energy and integrated into Delu's body, which made his cyclone rise a little bit out of thin air. At this time, even a fool could understand what was going on, so in the dark, there was an excited laugh. Ahahaha. Ahahaha. Delu, who was thought to be dead, miraculously absorbed the ghost and gained his energy, breaking through from the 10th stage of opening meridians to the 7th grade martial arts apprentice. In the professional terminology of fantasy novels, this is a complete devourer. The smile suddenly stopped. The green light on Delu's palm disappeared, and it was difficult to reappear, no matter how he stimulated it. Why is it gone? Does it only appear when there is a crisis? Although frustrated, Delu still couldn't hide his excitement, because his cultivation had improved significantly. He clenched his fist and said coldly, "Jun Changxiao, sooner or later, I will take revenge." As he said that, he stood up and left. As soon as he took a step, his speed was very fast, so fast that he looked like a ghost. It can be seen that Brother Green Scarf not only absorbed the cultivation of Ghost Old Man, but also comprehended his blood explosion step on his own. Although he can't be compared with him, he is already very strong at the level of martial artist. Cool. Super cool. At that moment, Delu, who was galloping in the mountains and fields, had a feeling that he was the only one in the world, and he wanted to catch up with the Iron Bone school and trample them hard. Calm down, calm down. That guy and his disciples are too powerful. Although he has gained great power, two fists cannot defeat many fists. He should go back to Strongest Sect first, study the green light thoroughly, and improve his cultivation before taking revenge. Two fists cannot defeat many fists. This guy overestimates himself. He just devoured the power of others and improved his realm. Even if he enters the martial arts master now and faces an outer disciple like Long Xiang, he can be abused and out his life. Absorbing the power of the strong, he entered the 7th grade martial arts apprentice from the 10th stage of opening meridians in one fell swoop. Delu is definitely cheating, and it is definitely an inspirational story of a small person's counterattack. But Gui Leo is very tragic. He is the old one and beat the young, and the old one comes, usually the boss, but he was killed by an ant before he saw anyone from the Iron Bone Sect. Speaking of which, Sect Master Jun really has to thank Delu. If he hadn't intercepted and killed Gui Leo halfway, it would definitely be a headache to face a martial arts sect that appears and disappears like a ghost. But a dangerous person died, and an ant became successful. It's hard to say whether it will bring more trouble in the future. Plop. Ouch. Delu was so excited that he drove at full speed, but accidentally crashed into a boulder. At present, even if Green Scarf Brother is a devourer, his IQ is not enough to pose any substantial threat to system users, waste people, and reborn people. Therefore, although the little guy has counterattacked, if he wants to continue to counterattack the lives of several protagonists, he will have a long way to go. Chapter 236, Mr. Wen's suggestion to improve the ecological environment. 2 days later, Jun Changxiao led his disciples back to the sect. Huaing County was in an uproar because the Black Eagle Hole on Black Eagle Mountain was burned to ruins. Could it be that the sect was wiped out? When the news spread, it swept across Huaing County like a hurricane. For a time, everyone was discussing the matter, and most of them were secretly happy. There are many evil sects in Huaing County, but the most notorious one is the Black Eagle Hall, because this sect completely disregards the rules of the martial arts world, and does business of killing people and robbing goods all day long. Now that the sect has been burned, and the whereabouts of the Hall Master and disciples are unknown, someone must have acted on behalf of heaven, and destroyed this force. It is normal for the righteous to be happy. When the evil sects learned about it, they actually applauded. The Black Eagle Hall is really stinky. Of course. In addition to being happy, everyone discussed which hero destroyed the Black Eagle Hall that had been established for 100 years. Unfortunately, there were no witnesses. Everyone could only speculate, based on the forces that the Black Eagle Hall had offended. In the end, no matter how many times they pushed it, they still couldn't get it out, because they had offended so many forces. Someone once said that the deputy leader of the Black Hawk Hall had gone to the Death Valley to pursue the Iron Bone Sect, but it didn't attract attention. The warriors of Huaing County would never have thought that the 8th-rate sect of Qingyang County would destroy the deputy leader and others, and then take the initiative to destroy the Black Hawk Hall. For a time, there were many different opinions. How the Black Hawk Hall was destroyed is destined to become the next unsolved mystery in the wheel of history. Qingyang County also got the news, but because it was a matter of other counties, they just talked about it casually and didn't take it seriously. What they are discussing now is the pills of the AI family and the challenge of the Iron Bone Sect to the Strongest Sect a few months later. After returning to the sect, Jun Changxiao distributed the space rings he obtained one by one, so that each disciple had one. The destruction of the Black Hawk Hall obtained valuable wealth and resources, which made him think, why not pull the banner of justice and rob the evil organization? No. This is a bit too high profile, and it does not conform to the strategic policy of developing the sect in a low-key manner. After coming to the other world, we first destroyed the Linquan Sect, then defeated the Heoki Sect, and now we have also destroyed the Black Eagle Hall. I can't see how it is low-key at all. Master. The next day, after returning to the sect, Wei Leo came to see him and said, the second batch of medicinal materials are ripe, and can be picked. Really? Jun Changxiao was overjoyed and hurried to the medicine garden. Under Wei Leo's careful care, more than 10 acres of medicinal fields are full of mature medicinal materials, and more concentrated spiritual power is gathered in the sky. Jun Changxiao took a deep breath and was refreshed. Wei Leo, he said in surprise, under your care, the medicine garden has become a Feng Shui treasure land with abundant spiritual power. Wei Leo said, Master, our Tegu sect's mountain is too ordinary. I suggest planting spiritual power type medicinal materials around it, which should be able to improve a lot of heaven and earth attributes. This is a good suggestion. Jun Changxiao's eyes lit up. Although Tegu mountain is large, it is really ordinary. Although there is a little spiritual power, it is far inferior to the blessed land of Dongshan. Not to mention Black Eagle Mountain, even Lingquan Mountain, where Jiuliu Lingquan Sect is located, is much stronger than Tegu Mountain in terms of spiritual power. A place with outstanding people and beautiful mountains and rivers has spiritual energy, which can breed outstanding talents. Various infrastructures must be in place, and the spiritual energy of Tegu Mountain must also be strengthened, so that you and your disciples can benefit. Under normal circumstances, it is impossible to gather spiritual power in a place with weak spiritual power, but Elder Wei can improve it by cultivating medicinal materials. Once the spiritual power of Tegu Mountain is strengthened, the speed of cultivating medicinal materials will increase, and then continue to release the attributes of heaven and earth after maturity, achieving a virtuous cycle. However, Elder Wei added, this is a big project, and it will not be effective in 2 or 3 years. It's okay. Jun Chang smiled and said, this seat strongly supports you in planting trees. It doesn't matter if it's slow, as long as it can improve the ecological environment of Tegu Mountain, it will benefit the present and the future. In that case, Wei Leo said, please buy more medicinal seeds, preferably of high quality. Jun Chang smiled and said, no problem. Next, Wei Leo began to collect medicinal herbs. He did not ask the disciples of the medicine hall to help, but picked them himself, aiming to perfectly preserve the spiritual power. After an inventory, there were more than 2,000 medicinal herbs for refining the key gathering pill, and the medicinal effect was stronger than that of the previous planting. Wei Leo. Jun Chang smiled, and said with emotion, it is a great honor for my Tegu sect to recruit a herbalist like you. Wei Leo smiled and said, thanks to the kindness of the master, I'm willing to do my last bit of strength in my lifetime. That's a bit unlucky. Jun Chang smiled and said, Emperor Wei is old and frail, but he will definitely live 1,000 years. Ha ha ha. Boss Wei laughed and said, only those who have reached the level of Martial King can live for 1,000 years. I don't count on this old bone of mine. Break through to Martial King, and you can live for 1,000 years. It's not very difficult. Jun Chang laughed. The corners of Boss Wei's mouth twitched. Although Martial King is not the strongest existence in Xingqiu continent, those who can be called king are all overlords. The head of the sect actually said that it is not very difficult. After collecting the herbs, Jun Changxiao left the medicine garden to refine the elixir. Boss Wei led his disciples to continue planting high quality seeds. After 2 cultivations, the spiritual power permeated in the medicine garden has been improved, and the 3rd time of maturity will be shortened a lot. This is what Jun Changxiao hopes to see the most, because within the 1-year contract period, if there are more high quality herbs, it will definitely help himself and his disciples to improve. In the room, Jun Changxiao sat cross-legged and practiced the Yijinjing. The elixir was being refined in the medicine pavilion, and the sound of ding ding was endless, like beautiful music. The second batch of herbs refined by Boss Wei had high effects, because of its high quality. After all the refining was completed, Jun Changxiao took one, and it was estimated that the absorption rate was 15 times faster. This is to be taken non-stop for 24 hours, which is equivalent to absorbing spiritual power for 1 day for others, and 15 days for oneself. Jun Changxiao said with a fiery look, the medicinal herbs planted by Wei Leo are definitely the key to my Tegu sect's road to becoming stronger. The next day, give 10 key gathering pills to each disciple who participated in the destruction of the Black Eagle Hall as a reward. Then go to Huang City, find the head of the AI family, and tell him what he is here for. What? AI Shangni was surprised and said, such seeds require hundreds of thousands? Can you get them together? Jun Changxiao said. AI Shangni calmed down and said, although the number is large, you can get them together, but the price is a bit expensive. The previous high quality medicinal seeds were given by him, and the number was not too much, so the AI family could afford it. But hundreds of thousands of them would be too valuable. Jun Changxiao threw a space ring and said, there are 20 million in it. The head of the AI family can collect it as you see fit. AI Shangni's mouth twitched slightly. Spending so much money on buying medicinal seeds is definitely a big deal. Master Jun, please rest assured. AI Shang glared, I will collect 20 million high quality medicinal seeds as quickly as possible. Yes. Jun Chang smiled. Take the money and return the ring to me. 20 million was spent, but he still cared about a space ring. This is really stingy. By the way, Master Jun. After finishing the business, AI Shang glared, the neighboring Pingyang County will hold a large-scale sect competition in half a month. Is your sect interested in participating? Not interested. Jun Chang smiled. Ding. The side quest is triggered. Opening the data panel, the task is send disciples to participate in the Pingyang County sect competition and win the championship. Elite task. Jun Chang smiled and finished his words. I want to participate too. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Disciple Mall Vending Machine. Jun Changxiao had the idea of sending his disciples to participate in the sect competition before, because it can improve actual combat, but he gave up the idea when he saw the experience tower. He still needs time to refine this thing, so he has no time to compete with others. After the side quest comes, he has to participate, even if he is not interested. After all, he can earn contribution points. The system said, the first epic task is to win the sect competition, and now the side quest is also, to win the sect competition. This elite task is not easy to do. It is challenging, only when it is difficult. Jun Changxiao said with a smile. AI Shang glared. As far as I know, the sects participating in the sect competition this time are mainly 6th and 7th streams, and the strongest contestant is a 9th grade martial artist. System. Just now, just ignore what I said. Why? Because the inner disciples of the Tegu sect are already invincible at the martial artist level. In the sect competition of Pingyang County, the highest contestant is only a 9th grade martial artist. Isn't it possible to win the championship with your eyes closed? Jun Changxiao couldn't help but be happy. The side quests given by the system are like giving away rice for nothing. Master AI, he asked, are there any rewards? Since they are sending disciples to participate, they must care more about the championship reward. AI Shang glared and said, if a sect disciple can enter the top 10, he will get 10 spirit stones. If he wins the championship, he will get a top grade martial arts and 100 spirit stones. So generous? Jun Changxiao was stunned. In the previous sect competition in Liang City, Xiao Zuji won the championship and only got a common high-level martial arts and 10 spirit stones. In the Pingyang County competition, the top 10 will get 10, which is really a world of difference. If not for the contribution value, I will participate for 100 spirit stones. After leaving the AI family's herbal medicine store, Jun Changxiao returned to the sect and began to think about who to send to participate in the sect competition in Pingyang County. This kind of reward is generous and comes with tasks, and it must be selected from the inner disciples. Among them, only Yi Xingchen and Li Fei had not participated in the sect competition in Liang City, so one of them was chosen. Xingchen. Jun Changxiao decided. When Yi Xingchen learned about this, he refused in his heart. After all, it is better to practice in the sect than to participate in the children's level competition. After learning about the spiritual stone reward, he said seriously, Master, when are you going to participate in the sect competition? Departure in 10 days. Jun Changxiao said. 10 days? I can still practice for a while. Late at night, Jun Changxiao entered the training tower as usual and practiced for more than 2 hours, then took a hot bath after coming out and sat cross-legged in the room to practice Yi Jingjing. The sect needs to develop, and the cultivation cannot fall behind. An hour later, Jun Changxiao skillfully opened them all and murmured, "It's time to refresh." Ding. Sect contribution value 770 thousandths. The newly appeared goods are still useless. However, at the end, I found a product called Disciple Mall Vending Machine. Click on the details. Item, Disciple Mall Vending Machine. Introduction. This item can automatically sell goods in the Disciple Mall. You only need to verify with your finger and choose to buy items if you have enough contribution points. Price 100 contribution points. This thing is great, Jun Changxiao said happily. In the previous sect missions, many disciples completed the missions and obtained corresponding contribution points, but he had to purchase and distribute them one by one, which was too troublesome. Now there is a Disciple Mall vending machine. The next time a sect mission appears, the disciples can buy it themselves after completing the mission, which will undoubtedly save a lot of trouble. Ding. The host consumes 100 contribution points and obtains a Disciple Mall vending machine X1, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution value 670 thousandths. After buying it, Jun Changxiao didn't dare to refresh them all again, for fear of getting addicted and wasting a lot of contribution points. After dawn, he threw the vending machine in the mission pavilion. Early morning. Brainwashed by the divine song, the disciples danced happily, and their minds were cultivated. The best dancer must be Liu Wanshi, with all kinds of self-choreographed dances that are absolutely pleasing to the eye. It's a pity that she was born in the wrong place. If she were on Earth, she would definitely capture the hearts of countless otakus, who would be willing to cheer for her and make it to the top of the list. After morning exercises, Jun Changxiao told the disciples about the function of the vending machine, and the disciples hurried to the mission pavilion. "I'll try." Cui Bujian stood in front of the machine, stretched out his thumb, and clicked on the fingerprint button. The data immediately appeared on the screen. Disciple, Cui Bujian. Contribution value 3 points. The following lists many products in the Disciple Mall, such as wooden swords and key gathering powder. What should I buy? Cui Bujian thought for a moment, then clicked on the key gathering powder and bought 3 copies. For now, he needed resources to improve his realm, so it would be more cost effective to buy the key gathering powder than the wooden sword. The disciples who had completed the tasks tested one by one, and when they saw that they still had contribution points, they would also choose to buy the key gathering powder. Master, Li Qingyang stood outside the hall and said, although the vending machine is good, there are too few tasks in the sect, and many junior brothers do not have contribution points to buy goods. Jun Chang smiled and said, don't worry, there will be more in the future. The system stipulates that the sect tasks will only be opened after the number of disciples is full. Before the third opening, 1,000 people must be recruited. Ah. Jun Chang smiled and sighed. If there are sect tasks every day, it's okay even if I don't contribute to myself. The system said, there is a product called the Task Publisher in the mall. Tasks will be released every day. When disciples complete them, they will only increase their own contribution points, which meets the host's requirements. Is it easy to brush? Jun Chang smiled. The system said, it's easy to get, but it's only sold in the mid-level mall. Get lost. The AI family leader was very efficient. He came to visit in just a few days and brought 200,000 high-quality medicinal seeds, with an average of only 100 taels per seed. Seeds have never been expensive, but the difficulty lies in planting and cultivation. Spending 20 million to buy 200,000 seeds made Jun Changxiao feel a little distressed. But thinking about the improvement of the ecological environment of Tegu Mountain, it is still acceptable to benefit the present and the future. After obtaining a large number of seeds, Wei Lao said, please send more people to help me plant. Yes. Jun Changxiao sent Long Xiang, Sima Zongda and others over, and the transformation of the sect's ecological environment was carried out in full swing. 10 days later, the area of several miles centered on the Tegu sect was also sown with high quality medicinal herbs, and then the disciples of the medicine hall were responsible for cultivating them. This was very busy for Sun Bukong and others. After all, 200,000 seeds were planted. It was a bit tiring, but it could undoubtedly improve the technology of cultivating medicinal herbs, so the disciples of the medicine hall were also happy to do it. Let's go. After breakfast, Jun Changxiao took Yi Xingchen away to Pinggyang County to participate in the sect competition. Junior brother Yi, senior brother. The disciples saw him off and shouted, "We are waiting for your triumphant return." TSK. Yi Xingchen snorted coldly. For some reason, his state of mind had changed a little. In his previous life, he had no friends and went to fight and kill others alone. Now that he was participating in the sect competition, he had a group of fellow disciples to see him off. That strange feeling was something he had never experienced in his previous life. Chapter 238 Pinggyang County, the Iron Bone Sect. Jun Changxiao and Yi Xingchen traveled lightly. He did not bring other disciples with him, because this kind of sect competition is not difficult at all. If too many people go, it will only waste time. It is better to practice at home. If the organizers of the Pinggyang County sect competition knew, they would definitely be devastated. Our competition is much more standardized than the Pinggyang County sect competition. Can you give us some minimum respect? Respect will definitely be given. Otherwise, Master Jun will not send any disciples to participate. Pinggyang County is a bit far away, so Jun Changxiao summoned the purple lightning young tiger and rode it comfortably on the way. Yi Xingchen followed closely behind him with a very sad performance of Du Bu Yulong. Damn it. If the Emperor's King Shen Jade sculpture was still there, it would have flapped its wings for thousands of miles and thrown him to the north and south of the world long ago. A hero does not mention his past achievements. Yi Xingchen could only follow on foot and entered the neighboring Pinggyang County the next day. Pinggyang County is very large and its strength in all aspects is stronger than Pinggyang County. There are at least 300 sects of all sizes here, and there are 2 fifth-rate sects. One is Haoi Fang, and the other is Tingyu Pavilion. That's right, the young pavilion master who was cheated by Jun Changxiao several times at the auction house, his sect is here. Pinggyang County has good public security. Although there are evil sects, they are suppressed by powerful righteous sects, and most of them are sneaky. TSK. Sitting on the tiger beast and walking slowly in the beautiful mountains and forests, Jun Changxiao murmured, "It feels that the spiritual power here is more concentrated than Pinggyang County." Yi Xingchen said, "Pinggyang County is only a 9th class county after all, so it can't be compared with the 8th class county." 9th class, 8th class? Jun Changxiao was surprised and said, "Could it be that counties are also divided into levels? This guy, as the leader of a sect, hasn't he heard of it?" Yi Xingchen said, "In the Xingyan continent, sects are divided into different levels, and counties are naturally divided into different levels. The 9th level is the lowest?" "Yes." Jun Changxiao was silent. Traveling to a 9th level sect and a 9th level county, can his luck be better? The system said, "The host likes to challenge the difficulty, so the start is the lowest. Isn't it just to his liking?" Jun Changxiao was too lazy to pay attention to it, turned around and looked at Yi Xingchen, and smiled. "You seem to know a lot. This is the most basic information, okay?" Jun Changxiao said meaningfully, "Xingchen, I actually know that you are a person with a story. In a sect, there are some things that cannot be said, and now there are only 2 people who can speak freely." Yi Xingchen said, "So the leader can summarize life with a word of handsome?" "Yes." Jun Changxiao said seriously, "I have been walking in the martial arts world for thousands of years, and I have never seen such a shameless leader of a sect. Actually." Jun Chang smiled and got back to the point. "Everyone has their own secrets, buried deep in their hearts, and cannot be known by others." Yi Xingchen was silent. Could it be that he knew his secret? Impossible. Rebirth is such a thing that goes against the law of reincarnation. Who can guess it? He must be tricking me. Xingchen. Jun Chang smiled and said, "I'm not interested in knowing the secret in your heart, and you just need to remember that once you are a member of the Iron Bone Sect, you will be a member of the Iron Bone Sect for the rest of your life." This disciple was forcibly brought into the sect, so naturally he knew that he was dissatisfied, so he needed to be slowly educated and influenced. Understood. Yi Xingchen said this, but he was disdainful in his heart. During this period, although he was active, his real purpose was nothing more than to obtain more resources. He really didn't feel a sense of belonging to the sect. Xingchen, do you know what clang, clang 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 is? Clang clang clang? Clang 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 means only, you can accompany me to obtain the scriptures. Only, you can kill demons and exorcise monsters. Sect Master Jun sang affectionately. Yi Xingchen clenched his fists tightly. Jun Changxiao finished singing and said seriously, Xingchen, when you understand the meaning of the 4 words Iron Bones, you will naturally understand it. Sect leader, I want to punch you to death. The Pingyang County Sect competition was held in Suiyang City. Although Suiyang City is not the main city in the county, it is much stronger than Pingyang City in terms of scale and strength. There are still 2 days before the competition starts. Various forces are pouring in from all directions. The city gate is crowded and lively. Oh. An old man bowed and said, isn't this the leader of the Hezhan sect? I haven't seen you for many days. Your cultivation has improved. Haha, it's Master Kang. Long time no see, long time no see. The head of the Hezhan sect and his disciples bowed to him. This scene of various forces saying polite words when greeting each other was played out repeatedly at the city gate, and the atmosphere was also very good. Roar. At this moment, a roar came from behind, and everyone turned their heads to look. They saw a man in brocade clothes riding a black-haired leopard beast slowly walking towards them. This is a black-skinned leopard. My god, a beast comparable to the peak martial arts apprentice. It's the young master of the 6th flow beast taming sect. It's worthy of being a sect that mainly raises ferocious beasts. He rides a black-skinned leopard when he goes out. Why is the young master of the beast taming sect here? Is he going to participate in the sect competition as well? The competition stipulates that, as long as the sect members are under 20 years old and have not participated in the competition, they are eligible to sign up. Everyone whispered to each other, their eyes full of envy. The young master rode a black-skinned beast, surrounded by disciples, and walked proudly. Riding a beast out, he was the focus of everyone's attention wherever he went, which made him feel very comfortable. Suddenly, the young master frowned. Because 2 people walked by quickly without turning their heads, and seemed not to notice him. He was used to being noticed, and suddenly felt underestimated, so he shouted in a deep voice, 2 people in front, stop for me. Roar. The Black Panther could communicate with its master's mind, and immediately roared at the 2 people who walked by. The sound was a bit loud, shaking the hearts of ordinary warriors. At the same time, everyone noticed the 2 people who walked quickly past the young master of the beast taming sect. TSK. Dare to walk in front of the Black Panther, you are really brave. What's the matter? The man in the front stopped, turned around with a smile, and took a closer look. It was our most handsome Master Jun. Needless to say, next to him was Yi Xingchen. Seeing that guy looked indifferent, the young master was immediately angry. The Black Panther I'm riding is in your sight. You have to show a little fear, right? Could it be a master? The young master asked cautiously. You look unfamiliar. I wonder which sect or school you are from? Pingyang County, the Zheng sect. Jun Chang said with a smile. After hearing this, the various forces surrounding nearby were stunned and immediately began to discuss. So it's the Tigu sect from the next county. Isn't this the 8th-rate sect that was recently promoted? Come to Suiyang City. Are you here to watch the fun? Hearing everyone's discussion, especially the words 8th-rate sect, the young master looked disdainful and said, my friend, don't you realize that you are now blocking my way? Chapter 239 My disciple is also cruel. Jun Changxiao was startled and said, we walk fast, and you walk slowly, how can we block our way? Besides, if you don't shout stop, we will enter the city now, and will not block your way. This explanation is reasonable and there is nothing wrong with it. But the forces of all parties secretly thought, this outer county Tigu sect hasn't figured out that the young master of the beast taming sect has a problem with you? Don't you apologize quickly, to avoid getting into trouble? Alas, people from remote villages just don't have good eyesight. The young master of the beast taming sect didn't expect the other party to explain it this way, so he said lightly, this young master's Black Panther is a bit ferocious. If you 2 walk in front and provoke it, you will be eaten in one bite, and you will die unjustly. If it is a high-level sect in the outer county, they will naturally give face. But an 8th-rate sect came to the territory of Pingayang County, and he must be taught a lesson. So you're thinking about us? Jun Changxiao bowed and said, "Thank you very much, young master. We'll see you later." As he said that, he led Yi Xingchen to the city gate. The young master's eyes were full of anger. The black-skinned leopard, who was in tune with his master, took a step and chased after him. It did not attack, but opened its mouth wide, intending to roar to shock the two humans in front. But, before it started roaring, Yi Xingchen suddenly turned around and punched hard. Bang! It hit the side of the face directly. This punch was as powerful as eating roasted gluten. The black-skinned leopard retreated more than 10 steps backwards, and finally its limbs softened and fell to the ground on the spot. The young master lost his balance and rolled down. Not only was he covered in dust, but he was also in a very embarrassed state. "Young master." The disciples rushed over. The various forces at the city gate widened their eyes. Oh my god. That boy who looked only 17 or 18 years old, with one punch, knocked down the black-skinned leopard that was comparable to a peak martial artist. How terrifying was his strength? This was not the point. The point was that he actually dared to attack the mount of the young master of the 6th flow-taming beast sect. Was he tired of hanging himself? "Xingchen," Jun Changxiao said in a deep voice. How could he attack casually? Yi Xingchen retracted his fist and said lightly, "Disciple is worried that the evil beast will attack the master." "That's right." Jun Changxiao turned his head and smiled at the young master who was helped up. "Sir, please hold your pet well, especially don't get close to me, because I, your disciple, am also very cruel." Everyone's mouth twitched. It was indeed cruel to knock down the black-skinned leopard with one punch. "You." The young master was furious, but just as he opened his mouth, he saw that the two had already entered the city, so he clenched his fist and shouted in his heart, "Wait for me." He felt very comfortable riding a black-skinned leopard in the wind and glory. As a result, his mount was knocked down, and he rolled to the ground. He lost face in public, which must be difficult to accept. Revenge must be taken. But fighting is prohibited in Suiyang City, so he can only suppress his anger and wait until the sect competition is over before settling the score. The guy just now called himself the master, and the man who attacked him called him the leader. Could it be the leader of the Tigu sect, Jun Changxiao? It should be. I heard that not long ago, the Tigu sect challenged the Heoki sect and won a complete victory. TSK, heroes emerge from youth. The warriors at the city gate vied to discuss. Not everyone looked down on Jun Changxiao. Many veteran warriors expressed their appreciation. After all, it was unprecedented for an 8th-rate warrior to fight against a 6th-rate warrior and win. Suiyang City is very large and lively. After Jun Changxiao brought Yi Xingchen in, he just took a quick look and went to the registration point for the sect competition in the south of the city according to the signs on the street. The sect competition started registration a few days ago, and many forces would send higher-level people to register in advance, so there were not many people at the registration office. "Sect," the man holding the pen said when Jun Changxiao just arrived at the registration office. "Qingyang County, the Tigu Zheng sect," Jun Changxiao said. The man holding the pen was startled, then raised his head, looked at him and said, "Your Qingyang County sect wants to participate in the Pingayang County sect competition?" "No," Jun Changxiao said with a smile. "Of course it is possible. After all, there is no explicit regulation to restrict other counties from participating." But the man holding the pen received the registration from the sects of other counties for the first time, so it is normal to be surprised. "Who are you?" According to the regulations, it is necessary to confirm whether the identity of the applicant is a senior member of the sect. The head of the Tigu Zheng sect, Jun Changxiao. Jun Changxiao said proudly. "Others can look down on your sect, but you must be proud of it. How many people are participating?" One. The man holding the pen twitched his mouth and said, "Master Jun, the sect competition is only for disciples. As the leader of a sect, you are not eligible to sign up." He misunderstood. He treated Lord Yuidi standing next to him as heir. "This is my disciple who will participate in the competition." Jun Chang smiled. "Oh." The man holding the pen understood and said, "Name, age." Yi Xingchen, 18. Pa. Stamping on the registration form, the man holding the pen handed it over together with the competition token and said, "Gather here early tomorrow morning." However, he paused and said, "The sect competition in Pingayang County has always been attended by disciples from sects within the county. Your sect is from another county, so you will inevitably be treated specially at that time." This was a kind reminder. Jun Chang smiled and said, "I understand." When he took Yi Xingchen away, the warriors from various forces who entered from the city gate and signed up later began to talk about it. It turns out that the Tigu sect is not here to watch the fun, but to participate in the sect competition. You are really brave to cross the county to participate in the competition held by our Pingayang County. 2 years ago, a 6th-rate sect from another county brought 10 disciples to participate, but they were eliminated in the first round. So our Pingayang County sect competition has to have our own people to participate. If sects from other counties come, they will definitely attack together with a common hatred of the enemy. The Tigu sect only has 1 disciple participating in the competition. When the first round of the melee comes, it will definitely not last long and will be eliminated. There is no denying it. The strength shown by Yi Xingchen in knocking down the black-skinned leopard with 1 punch just now made the warriors who witnessed it very afraid. But the Pingayang County sect competition has its own style. The first round of the competition is a big melee. At that time, hundreds of people will fight in one area, and only the survivors can advance to the second round. As a person from another county, he will definitely become the target of public criticism. Jun Changxiao took Yi Xingchen to choose an interstate and went to the competition venue early the next morning. The venue for the Suiyang City Sect competition is also a building similar to the Coliseum, and the viewing platform can accommodate 200,000 to 300,000 people. Old rules. As high-ranking members of the sect, Jun Changxiao and the leaders of each sect were placed in the best viewing seats. After a while, Yi Xingchen followed the contestants out of the venue and stopped at one of the 8 areas of the Coliseum. TSK. Jun Changxiao looked down at the 8 areas and murmured, "There are at least 2,000 people participating in the competition. The standard is indeed much higher than that of the Pingayang County sect competition. PS. Please recommend on monthly votes." Chapter 240 A bunch of trash. Let's fight. In the sect competitions in Pingayang County every 2 years, there are only a few hundred participants, while in Pingayang County, there are more than 2,000 participants. This is the difference between the 9th class counties and the 8th class counties. Not only are there more people, but the strength is also very strong. Jun Changxiao relied on the glare sunglasses to find that the lowest level of the contestants was a 1st class martial artist, and there were many 4th and 5th class martial artists. There were also 4 9th class martial artists. In the sect competitions in Pingayang County, 1st and 2nd class martial artists were the favorites for the championship, but here they can only be the bottom. In fact, such a big gap is caused by the fact that the sect competitions in Pingayang County limit the number of martial artists under the age of 20 to sign up. Pingayang County is limited to those under the age of 18. The difference of 2 years will obviously make the strength different. Of course, it is an indisputable fact that the 8th class Pingayang County is stronger than the 9th class Pingayang County. A big boss sitting next to him whispered, "What's on the eyes of the leader of the Tigu sect?" Humph. A high-ranking official of a certain sect said disdainfully, "It's the trick. A sect of the 8th rate in the 9th rank county dares to come to participate in the sect competition in our Pingayang County. Who gave him the courage?" It is said that the Tigu sect challenged the Heoki sect and won. I have also heard a little about this. It seems that they sent 7 disciples to fight and won 7 games. The leader of the Qin sect lost to him. No way. Is an 8th rate sect so strong? The lord of Suiyang City was talking about the rules of the competition, and the leaders of various sects started chatting. It is not difficult to hear from the words that it is incredible that the Tigu sect can defeat the Heoki sect. Jun Changxiao listened carefully to the rules of the competition. It is roughly understood that the rules of the first round of the competition in Pingayang County are that the 8 areas will have a big melee, and those who can stand for the specified time can advance to the second round. TSK. There are at least 300 people in one area, so the melee is bound to be exciting. After explaining the rules, the host, the Lord of Suiyang City, began to call out the names of the contestants. Hezhan Sect, Xiangyi, Ikman, Qingyang County, Tiguzheng Sect, Yizingchen. Yes, Yizingchen replied lazily. If he hadn't wanted to confirm whether the contestant was present, he wouldn't have bothered to answer. However, the viewing platform was in an uproar, and all the warriors were looking at Yizingchen and whispering, "Oh my god, people from other counties are also participating in this sect competition? The 9th class Qingyang County next door. Isn't the Tigu sect the 8th-rate sect that defeated the Heoki sect some time ago? An 8th-rate sect from a 9th class county came to participate in our Qingyang County sect competition. Do they really think they are so important?" When the bigwigs from all sides discussed, they still paid some attention to their image, but these Qingyang County warriors showed their disdain and contempt to the fullest. Even though the Tigu sect could defeat Heoki sect, in their eyes, it was just a low-level sect from a low-level county. Coming to Qingyang County to participate in the competition was simply a disgrace to the competition. The Tigu sect of Qingyang County? They are really brave to come to participate. It's a pity that they were not assigned to the same competition area, otherwise they would have been beaten and eliminated in the first round. The participating disciples of various sects were also whispering. A warrior standing next to Yizingchen underestimated and said, "So he is from Qingyang County. Why does he look so unfamiliar?" Other contestants in the same competition area also cast their eyes over, with a disdainful smile on their lips, confirming the look. This guy was the first person to be eliminated after the competition started. Feeling that everyone was staring at him with disdain and contempt in their eyes, Yizingchen said lightly, "A bunch of trash." Jun Changxiao, who was sitting on the top, touched his chin and said, "Starting from the first round, Xingchen will probably be given special attention soon." The roll call ended. Before the Qingyang County warriors heard the name of the second contestant from Qingyang County, they realized that the Tigu sect was only sending one person to participate. An 8th-rate sect sent one disciple to participate in the battle. How funny. Master Jun, a middle-aged man next to him, laughed and said, "He really admires your courage. You dare to bring a disciple to participate in the sect competition." Jun Chang smiled and said, "It's okay." The middle-aged man shook his head. Last time a 6th-rate sect came from another county to participate, all 10 disciples were wiped out in the first round. You sent one disciple. Are you sure it's not funny? Elder Key. Someone laughed and said, "When the competition starts, there should be excitement in the third area." Yes, when more than 300 people collectively target one person, it will be a miracle if they can survive for half a quarter of an hour. The bigwigs from all sides laughed. Jun Changxiao ignored him and thought to himself, "Xingchen, this first round of melee is a bit cruel. Don't let me down." At this moment, the Lord of Suiyang City announced loudly, "The 66th Qingyang County Sect competition has officially begun. Contestants are invited to enter their respective competition areas. It's about to begin. I can't wait. The contestants this time are quite strong. It will definitely be exciting." There are a total of 8 competition areas in the competition field, and each competition area is as large as half a football field. Yizingchen, who represented the Tigu sect, was assigned to the number 3 competition area. When he walked over, more than 300 contestants nearby cast their eyes on him. There was no doubt. They were all locked on this contestant from another county. When the competition began, they would unite to face him. Isn't this too bullying? There was no way. This was the sect competition of Qingyang County. Since you, a foreigner, came to participate, you should be prepared to be targeted. And except for the powerful sects that challenged and stimulated the occasional try, the sects of other counties would not participate for the sake of being boring. Boy, a contestant passed by Yizingchen and laughed softly. "Don't cry when the competition starts." Cry? Yizingchen remembered this guy. All the members were in place. The 8 competition areas accommodated more than 2,000 contestants. Looking down from above, the scene was quite shocking. First round, start. After a while, the Lord of Suiyang City shouted loudly, "Who In an instant, the contestants from the 8 competition areas burst out their respective cultivations, and the spread of spiritual power was quite impressive. When the competition officially began, most of the warriors on the viewing platform turned their eyes to the 3rd competition area and locked their eyes on Yi Xingchen. People from other counties, please experience the hospitality of Pingayang County. Swish. A warrior from the 3rd competition area took the lead and rushed from behind, gathering spiritual energy in his fist. Snap. Yi Xingchen turned around, grabbed his fist with one hand, and said, "Rubbish. This." The contestant's face changed. Crack. Yi Xingchen grabbed with 5 fingers, and the sound of bones breaking came immediately. Then he shifted his body backwards, avoided the attack of another person, and kicked. Bang. Crack. The second warrior who attacked was kicked in the chest before he could stand firmly, and several ribs were broken instantly. Ah! The 2 contestants screamed in pain. Swish. Yi Xingchen threw the guy whose hand bones were crushed, then stepped on the Dubu Yulong and appeared in front of a warrior. He directly grabbed his left shoulder and said with a sinister smile, "You don't even have a chance to cry." Crack. Ah! The warrior whose shoulder bone was crushed screamed immediately. Yes, he didn't even have a chance to cry. Because the pain came unexpectedly and was heartbreaking, the man fainted on the ground before the tears began to gather. Boom. Boom. Yi Xingchen turned around, stretched out his fists, and knocked the 2 attacking contestants away. Standing proudly in the competition area, he glanced at the more than 300 Pingayang County contestants around him, and said indifferently, "A bunch of trash, come and fight." Chapter 241, All Down. As soon as the game started, Yi Xingchen crippled 3 contestants. His speed and cruel methods made the warriors on the viewing platform stare wide-eyed. "A bunch of trash, come and fight." This sentence instantly ignited the anger in the hearts of the warriors in Pingayang County. A guy from the 8th-rate sect of the 9th-class county was so arrogant. How could he be tolerated? The contestants in the 3rd competition area were a little afraid when they saw Yi Xingchen crippling 3 people in succession, but when they heard what he said, their anger also rose. "Go. Beat him up." Swish. Swish. In an instant, more than a dozen contestants rushed over from different directions, using boxing, palm techniques, and foot techniques. Yi Xingchen raised his eyebrows. He performed the Dubu Yulong technique and instantly approached the 2 warriors. He punched them with 2 heavy punches and directly knocked them out. After succeeding, he avoided the attackers behind him without any hesitation, and continued to perform the explosive fist. Bang, bang, bang. As the spiritual energy spread, all the contestants who attacked were knocked out. Yi Xingchen's attack was very heavy, and all the warriors who were knocked out vomited blood and lost their fighting power on the spot. This is because the competition has a rule that no life can be harmed. Otherwise, with his personality, the contestants who fell to the ground would have been corpses. However, there are more than 300 people, so this battle has just begun. Swish, swish, swish. More contestants rushed over. They couldn't tolerate a disciple from an outside county's 8th-rate sect being so arrogant at their doorstep. From Jun Changxiao's perspective, Yi Xingchen was surrounded by hundreds of contestants in 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. The scene was spectacular. Master Jun, a big man next to him, smiled and said, "Your disciple is quite strong, but it's a pity that 2 fists can't beat many fists. Sooner or later, you will be eliminated." "Really?" Jun Changxiao folded his hands and laughed. Boom. Boom. In the 3rd competition area, Yi Xingchen continued to fight alone. Every time he attacked, he would hurt a contestant. His performance was quite strong. With rich martial arts experience and stronger than the contestants, even when facing more than 300 contestants, our Lord Yidi is not panicked at all. Jun Changxiao sent him to participate, which is the right person. If it were Li Qingyang and Zhao Zuji, it would be difficult to fight so many contestants. Bang, bang, bang. With frequent use of explosive fists and mountain opening palms, Yi Xingchen seemed to have transformed into a lonely and arrogant general, trapped in the enemy camp and fighting with countless soldiers. One by one, the contestants were either blown away or fell to the ground under his cold and fierce attack. In a short time, at least more than 50 warriors were knocked down and lost their combat effectiveness. This The warriors on the viewing platform were stunned. The disciples of the Tegu school punched one by one, and their combat effectiveness was too terrifying. It's okay. It's okay. There are more than 200 contestants on the field. After all, he is just one person. Even if he is exhausted, he can be exhausted to death. The contestants surrounding Yi Xingchen thought so they continued to attack. If it were not for the limitation of the limited space range, they would probably have pressed over together. Other competition areas also started fighting. But in terms of the excitement, it is definitely not as exciting as the third competition area. After all, Yi Xingchen is fighting hundreds of people alone. The eyes of the warriors watching the battle are all locked on the third competition area and on the Tegu sect disciple who seems to be mowing the grass. Too strong. Is this guy a martial artist? None of the contestants attacked by him can stand up, as the contestants were thrown out again and again by Yi Xingchen and fell to the ground again and again. The shock in everyone's eyes became more and more intense. The leaders of various factions were also full of surprise. The Tegu sect disciple faced so many people. Not only did he avoid them with ease, but he was also able to counterattack at the right time. Perfect and impeccable. If it weren't for the martial arts aura, they would even suspect that it was an experienced martial arts master fighting with others. Yi Xingchen's performance also surprised Jun Changxiao, and he secretly said, "My disciple is really a bit strong. More than a bit." The system said. Jun Changxiao folded his hands and said with a smile, "It seems that only one person in the third competition area can advance." TSK. A big man next to him said lightly, "Master Jun, the competition has just begun. The best is yet to come." Not bad. Jun Changxiao agreed. The best is yet to come. The third competition area. The battle is still going on. Yi Xingchen was like a god of war. With a wave of his hand, the contestants fell to the ground one by one, and the stone slabs were splattered with blood. It took about 10 minutes. The number of warriors lying on the ground has risen to 150. Yi Xingchen was not tired, but became more and more courageous, which made the remaining contestants look deeply fearful. This guy's too strong. I can't go up anymore, otherwise, I will definitely be eliminated. The contestants from Pingyang County began to calm down. No one rushed forward to die foolishly. They just surrounded Yi Xingchen. "You guys don't go? I'll go." Swish, swish, swish. Yi Xingchen performed the dragon stepping movement, gathering spiritual energy in his fists. As long as he got close to the warriors, he would swing his explosive fists and knock down the locked targets again and again. As a result, the contestants were scared and retreated one after another. The corners of the mouth of the warrior watching the battle twitched. So many people were scared and ran around by one person. It was really embarrassing. Jun Changxiao shrugged and said disappointedly, "You contestants from Pingyang County are just like this." The faces of the leaders of various factions became ugly. Boom. Boom. Yi Xingchen was still fighting. The competition area was so small that the contestants couldn't run far even if they ran, so once they were locked, they would end up falling to the ground with injuries. Plop. Plop. One by one, the contestants fell to the ground, and the number of eliminated people continued to rise 30 minutes later. Plop. A 9th rank martial artist fell to the ground in pain, holding his stomach, and then fainted. Rubbish. Yi Xingchen said disdainfully. Very arrogant. But he has the qualifications to be arrogant. Because he is the only one standing in the third competition area now. More than 300 contestants are all lying on the ground groaning and moaning in pain. The warriors on the viewing platform were stunned. They had thought about how the disciples of the Tegu school would be taken care of by the disciples of various schools after the competition started, and how they would be abused in various ways. But they never thought that so many contestants would be knocked down by him alone. It took less than half an hour. The big brothers of various schools were also confused, especially when they saw a favorite to win the championship being knocked to the ground. The corners of their mouths twitched violently. This Tegu school disciple is really strong. Jun Changxiao looked at the big brother who had just spoken and smiled. The first good show is over. Yes, the good show is over. Not only were the disciples of the Tegu school not eliminated, but they eliminated more than 300 contestants. This kind of elimination of all contestants in the first round of the competition area has never happened in the previous Pingyang County sect competitions. No wonder when Li Xingchen defeated the last contestant, all the warriors in Pingayang County were dumbfounded. The qualifier in the third competition area of the first round. Qingyang County, Strongest Sect, Li Xingchen. The referee announced loudly. Li Xingchen stepped over the contestants one by one until he walked out of the competition area and then said lightly, "Participating in this kind of competition is a complete waste of time." Chapter 242 Easily winning the championship. The first round of the Pingayang County Sect competition was scheduled for 1 hour. Li Xingchen eliminated all the contestants in the third competition area and advanced to the second round first. The other 7 competition areas were still fighting. After an hour of fighting, more than 30 people advanced to the second round. When they came out and saw that all the contestants in the third competition area had fallen to the ground, they all looked stunned. Due to the limited terrain and the focus on the competition, these contestants did not see how Li Xingchen mowed the grass. It's good that they didn't see it. Otherwise, they would have been deeply shocked. They even had the idea of not having any hope for the championship. The first round of the competition was over. After a short break, the contestants who advanced began to choose their number plates for a one-on-one competition. The contestants who could survive the melee were mostly above the 5th rank, so the second round of the battle would definitely be more exciting. However, when the Hezhan sect disciple drew Li Xingchen, the sect leaders collapsed directly on the chair. It was over. The favorites to win the championship were all solved by that guy, and his own disciples who were only 6th rank martial artists would definitely be completely abused. Second round, the first match begins. The referee shouted. Li Xingchen and the Hezhan school disciple walked onto the fighting stage. Begin. Swish. The Hezhan school disciple took the lead, performing crane steps and crane fist to dodge left and right. In the past, the Hezhan school leaders would have nodded in praise of the disciples' performance, but now the corners of their mouths twitched violently. With such a strong opponent, it's useless to do all these fancy tricks. Sure enough, when the disciple stepped on the crane step, constantly moving and circling, he was hit in the face by Li Xingchen's impatient punch and fell to the ground and fainted. What a fast speed. The Hezhan school disciple was killed in seconds. This guy is very strong. The expressions of more than 30 contestants became solemn. The second round of the fight continued until an hour later, when there were a total of 16 qualifiers, and then the opponents were decided by drawing lots. Plop. On the fighting stage, the 7th grade martial artist who received Li Xingchen's punch fell to the ground with a grin. The winner is Li Xingchen. Plop. The winner is Li Xingchen. In the quarterfinals, Li Xingchen knocked down his opponent with one punch again, shocking the other contestants so much that their faces changed and cold sweat oozed from their foreheads. This is not very strong. This is super strong. At that moment, the contestants finally understood why all the contestants in the third competition area fell. The battle of the top 4. Li Xingchen did not use his fists, but killed his opponent with the mountain opening palm and successfully entered the finals. The corners of everyone's mouth twitched more intensely. From the second round of one-on-one, the disciples of the Tegu school have never used a second move. They are simply invincible. Hey. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "It's a complete waste of time to send disciples to participate in this level of sect competition." The faces of the big men of various sects sitting next to them were extremely ugly. There was no way. The disciples were strong, and they could only watch him pretend. The duel that should have been very exciting became boring, because Li Xingchen killed his opponents again and again. The warriors of Pingayang County have already ignored the champion, because they know that he must be from the Tegu school. What they are thinking about now is whether they can let that guy use 2 moves in the final battle. It can't be done as they wish, because after the final battle began, Li Xingchen also knocked the 9th grade martial artist off the fighting stage with 1 move. The Pingayang County Sect competition ended here. When the Lord of Suiyang City began to announce the champion, more than 200,000 spectators were still a little dazed. The finals of the previous Pingayang County Sect competition were all exciting, but this one ended just as it started. Not exciting at all. Not exciting at all. Be content. At least the finals were fought. In the Pingayang County Sect competition, Xiao Zuji won the championship without making any moves, which was so boring that the spectators vomited blood. Ding. The side quest is completed, and the host obtains 500 contribution points. Ding. Sect contribution value 1155/1000. Ding. Sect contribution value overflows. Ding. The host completes the side quest and is rewarded with a bottle of top grade qualification transformation liquid. Tut tut. The reward for this elite mission is quite generous. Jun Changxiao stood up and bowed to the leaders of various factions, saying, "Thank you all for your kindness and letting my Tegu sect win the championship in the sect competition." The word "let" was said very spiritually, but it also turned into an invisible big palm, hitting the faces of all the forces in Pingyang County hard, making them look extremely ugly. Didn't you think that the Tegu sect would be eliminated? What was the result? It was so easy to win the championship. Under the gaze of more than 200,000 pairs of eyes, Xingchen received top grade martial arts and hundreds of spirit stones. At this point, the sect competition ended. A sect from another county won the championship, which would definitely cause a huge sensation in Pingyang County. The Tegu sect would certainly become the focus of discussion. All this had nothing to do with Jun Changxiao, because after leaving the venue for a short rest, he took Xingchen back to the sect. When they came in, the warriors in Pingyang County knew that it was an 8th-rate sect in the 9th-class county, and they all looked at it with contempt, but now they are full of awe. In the first round of the melee, more than 300 people were knocked down. In the subsequent fights, all the disciples were killed in one move. This sect's disciples are really terrifying. Respect cannot be earned, only fighting can. Damn it. The young master of the beast taming sect, who was riding a black leopard back to the sect, had a look of anger in his eyes. "Young master," a disciple said, "if we just leave like this, won't it be too easy for the Iron Bone Sect?" The young master said irritably, "That guy won the championship with great force. His strength is far superior to this young master. If we don't let the Iron Bone Sect go, will we go and let him be abused?" Being humiliated at the city gate was hard for him to accept. He decided to block the Iron Bone Sect outside and teach that guy a lesson after the sect competition. But when he saw Xingchen winning the championship with great force, he quickly gave up the idea. He is too strong, and he can't afford to offend him. Humph. This account has been recorded by this young master. If we meet next time, I will definitely roar. Suddenly, a roar came from the woods behind him. The black leopard's eyes froze, and then he was horrified, and his body was shaking with fear. The young master of the beast taming sect also changed his face slightly. This roar must have come from a tiger beast, and it is not difficult to hear from the voice that it is very irritable, and its level must be not low. Swish. A tiger beast with purple hair rushed out from the bushes on the left, and then landed not far from the crowd. Hiss. Purple lightning splashed all over its body. Seeing this, the young master of the beast taming sect and the disciples' eyes widened instantly. Heh. Jun Changxiao, who was riding on it, looked over and said with a smile, "Isn't this the young master at the city gate? I didn't expect to meet him in the wilderness." Roar. The purple lightning young tiger raised its head and roared, majestic and extraordinary. Plop. The black-skinned leopard was so frightened that its limbs went limp and fell to the ground, and the young master of the beast taming sect rolled down again. The purple lightning young tiger looked disdainful and then carried its master away. The young master climbed up from the ground in a mess, not caring about the weeds stuck to his hair. Looking at the tiger beast going away, he said in disbelief, "This is purple lightning young tiger." Chapter 243, Ways to Earn Resources. Purple lightning tiger? Oh my god, that's an extremely rare thunder beast. How could he, the leader of an 8th-rate sect, have such a mount? The disciples of the beast taming sect were shocked. As a sect that deals with fierce beasts, they naturally understand how precious thunder beasts are and how difficult they are to tame. In order to keep a low profile, Jun Changxiao took the purple lightning tiger into his leader's ball when he came to Suiyang City. After the sect competition, he must ride it when he returns to Pingyang County. He never thought that when he met the leader of the beast taming sect in the wild, he would still be very passive and high profile. Hey. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, "Why is it so difficult to keep a low profile?" Roar. Sensing the master's thoughts, the purple lightning tiger raised his head and roared again, scaring the animals in the forest to run around. This guy can keep a low profile, that's a ghost. Sect leader Jun has a mount to travel, and Yi Xingchen still follows him sadly with the crossing dragon. As for the rewards he received, he handed them in early. Damn it. He secretly said angrily, if I had known earlier, I might as well temper my body in the training tower. On the way back, Jun Changxiao pulled out of the mall and considered whether to brush off the overflowing contribution points or buy a few bottles of qualification transformation liquid. Forget it, play it safe. He was reluctant to waste the contribution points and bought 4 bottles of qualification transformation liquid. The contribution value dropped from 1155 to 955 points. A hidden task and a side task. Let the contribution value that was about to bottom out reach the full value again, which made Master Jun feel very comfortable and safe. Come to Pinggyang County to participate in the sect competition. Earn 500 contribution points and 100 spirit stones. Jun Changxiao said happily, it's worth it. What about the top grade martial arts? To be honest, he didn't like them. After all, they were far inferior to the martial arts in the mall. Especially the martial arts obtained in the Pinggyang County sect competition. If it weren't for the paper being too hard, they might have been thrown into the toilet. The system said, there are many counties in the Xingyan continent. There will be a sect competition every once in a while. The host can send more disciples to participate. It is a way to earn resources. TSK. Jun Changxiao rolled his eyes and said, you are very conscientious. If you don't encourage me to spend contribution points, how can you take the initiative to find ways for me to earn resources? The system said seriously, my mission is to assist the host to build the Strongest Sect into the Strongest Sect. Okay. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and thought, let the disciples go out to participate in the sect competition. Not only can they earn spirit stones, but they can also conduct actual combat. It's not bad. But, I can't follow them around. The system said, under normal circumstances, the sect competition does not require the head of the sect to go in person. Disciples can sign up for the competition by themselves, as long as they provide a sect certificate. After returning, ask the head of the AI family if there are any other counties that will host sect competitions like this. 2 days later, Jun Changxiao returned to Pinggyang County, but he did not return to the sect immediately, but went to Huayang City first. Master Jun went to participate in the Pinggyang County sect competition. Yes. How was the result? He won the championship casually. AI Shangni was dumbfounded. He won the championship casually. What a coquettish thing to say. Master AI. Jun Chang smiled and said, do you know that there are sect competitions like this that reward spirit stones in other counties? AI Shangni's mouth twitched and said, Master Jun still wants his disciples to participate? My group of useless disciples are not good enough to practice in the sect all day long. It is still necessary for them to go out and walk in the world. Jun Chang smiled. AI Shangni. Your group of useless disciples have completely defeated the direct disciples of Heoki sect. If they want to become useful, they will go to heaven and earth. That's right. AI Shangni agreed. Practicing in silence is like working behind closed doors. Only by going out to the martial arts world to gain experience can one truly grow up. He paused and said, Huayang County will hold a martial arts competition in a few days. The nature is similar to the sect competition, and the rewards are also very generous. Really? Jun Changxiao became interested. AI Shangni said seriously, there are many evil sects in Huayang County. Many people have died in previous martial arts competitions. AI does not recommend that Master Jun send disciples to participate. Moreover, he paused and whispered, AI just received news that the Black Hawk Hall, a 7th-rate sect in Huayang County, was wiped out overnight. It seems a bit uneasy. It's been more than half a month before I received the news. The information acquisition rate is really low. Oh. Jun Changxiao responded with a smile. Are there any other counties? Let me think about it. AI Shangni thought for a while and named 4 counties one after another. Some are closer, some are farther, but all of them will host martial arts events similar to the sect competition. After getting the information he wanted, Jun Changxiao bowed and said, "The sect still has important matters to deal with, so I'll take my leave first." The head of the AI family hurriedly saw him off, then shook his head secretly and said, "Master Jun, did you really just casually win the championship of the Pingayang County sect competition?" "Master." AI Shank came over and said, "My second brother, who is purchasing medicinal materials in Pingayang County, sent a pigeon to send the latest information about the sect competition." "Oh." AI Shangni hurriedly took the letter, which contained detailed competition experiences. After reading it, he looked dazed and said, "This is really so casual." After leaving Huayang City, Jun Changxiao rode the purple lightning young tiger back to the Tigu sect. Yi Xingchen arrived first, and was surrounded by disciples at this moment, asking about the situation. "Need I say more?" Suzaomo shouted, "Junior brother Yi will definitely win the championship. Junior brother Yi is awesome." The disciples shouted. Yi Xingchen ignored them, walked out of the crowd and headed for the training tower. In his opinion, participating in the Pingayang County sect competition was a complete waste of time and life. However, he was also slightly touched by the scene of people seeing him off when he left and welcoming him back. King Gaiang. Sitting on the 1,000-year-old Nanmu chair in the hall, Jun Changxiao said with a smile, "In a few days, there will be a martial arts competition in Pingayang County. You should go and participate." "Master," Li Qingyang said weakly, "can other junior brothers go? I want to practice hard for a while." Jun Changxiao said, "Other disciples will also go to other counties to participate in the sect competition." "I understand." Li Qingyang said, "I will definitely get good results." Jun Changxiao clasped his fingers together and said, "I have only one request, to win the championship of the martial arts competition." "Yes." Li Qingyang said seriously, "Live up to the master's high expectations." Jun Changxiao called Zhao Zuji, Suzaomo and others over, and assigned tasks one by one to participate in the sect competitions in various counties. There was only one requirement, which was to win the first place in various events, and bring the rewards back to the sect. Of course, for safety reasons, they were specifically told that, even if the opponent was weak, they had to show that they had won with great difficulty, so as not to be too high profile, and be targeted by those with ulterior motives. This was not enough. Jun Changxiao also mobilized the members of Xiaotang, and asked them to follow secretly. These inner disciples are his darlings. They can go out for training, but their absolute safety must be guaranteed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244. Sect Leader Jun is a particular person. A few days later, Li Qingyang set off first. His mission was to win the championship of Huayang County martial arts competition. Li Qingyang has a steady personality and is a bit kind. Jun Changxiao asked him to participate in events with the risk of death, and he also wanted to hone his skills. After joining the sect, Li Qingyang has changed a lot, especially in dealing with enemies. He has also shown the necessary decisiveness. However, it is not smooth enough. For example, in the battle with the leader of the Black Hawk Hall, he could have been killed directly because the slight kindness in his heart allowed the other party to seize the opportunity to escape. Kindness is a virtue. The Virgin Mary is also a virtue. Jun Changxiao does not want his disciples to be cold-blooded and ruthless, nor does he want them to be kind to their enemies. Because that is not a kind Virgin Mary, but a brain-dead Virgin Mary bitch. After Li Qingyang set off, 5 gold medal members followed in the dark to protect them at all times. The next day, Zhao Zuji, Suzaomo and others set off early, because the sect competition they participated in was far away, and they were also followed by members of the Rain Hall. Jun Changxiao focused on teaching his disciples, and at the same time, rewarded Yi Xingchen with 10, 15x key gathering pills and 10 spiritual stones. 100 turned into 10, which was a bit stingy. However, the 15x key gathering pills made Yi Xingchen very satisfied. The 3-month disciple competition is coming soon. Jun Changxiao murmured, the champion can add a few spiritual stones as a reward. This decision was passed on, and the disciples immediately became more active in cultivation. Li Qingyang and others went to participate in various competitions, while Jun Changxiao repeated in cultivation, teaching disciples, and training in the training tower. 15x key gathering pills and spiritual stones must be supplied at all times. A few days later, relying on resources in the powerful Yi Jinjing, Jian Zhangman's realm has entered the 6th grade martial arts master from the 5th grade. For now, he has been equal to Li Luoqiu, who has just entered the 6th grade martial arts master, and has become the strongest in the sect. Bang! A punch hit the test machine, and the displayed strength value was 9W7. The strength value of a 5th grade martial artist is about 90,000. Now that it has broken through to the 6th grade, it has increased by 7,000, which is 1,000 Jin more than the upper limit. Hey! Jun Changxiao said unsatisfiedly, when can I reach the level of being able to use the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade directly without the power increasing talisman? The system said, based on the power increase brought by the host's realm upgrade, only a breakthrough to the martial arts master can meet the requirements. Not at the martial arts master stage. Jun Changxiao said. The system said, the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade requires a minimum of 150,000 Jin. The host has entered the peak martial arts master, and the maximum strength is about 130,000 Jin. It is definitely not possible. Only 130,000? Jun Changxiao shook his head. The system said speechlessly, the top talents in the Xinjiang continent, the highest strength value of the martial arts master level is only about 100,000. The host is 20,000 or 30,000 higher than them. What's there to be dissatisfied about? Damn it. Jun Changxiao said, you finally said what I like to hear. System. 3 days later, Li Qingyang came back. He left clean and tidy, and he returned clean. Second senior brother. The disciples who were practicing gathered around him and asked, how was it? Not bad. Li Qingyang smiled and said, he won the championship. Second senior brother is awesome. The disciples shouted again. The pride of being a disciple of the Tegu sect was once again much stronger. Master. Li Qingyang walked into the hall and presented 50 spirit stones and a medium grade intermediate level weapon, saying, this is the reward for the champion of the Huaing County martial arts competition. Yeah. Jun Changxiao took away 40 spirit stones and said, is it difficult? Not difficult. Li Qingyang said disappointedly, the Huaing County martial arts competition has an age limit. People over 20 years old are not allowed to participate. The strongest contestant is only a 7th grade martial artist. That's really weak. Jun Changxiao said, did anyone kill anyone? The martial arts competition doesn't matter life or death. I encountered many evil martial artists who were vicious and cruel, but I killed them in the end. Li Qingyang said. Jun Changxiao said with satisfaction, not bad, not bad. Master. Li Qingyang said, disciple is worried that this will offend several evil forces and come to my Tegu sect to cause trouble. Jun Changxiao touched his nose and said, if they dare to come, they can't go back. Master. At this time, Zhang Wei hurried over from outside and said, there is a guy who claims to be an elder of the Ghost Hand sect, shouting outside. Li Qingyang said solemnly, Master, the Ghost Hand sect is a 7th-rate evil sect in Huaing County. Among the contestants killed by disciples, there are disciples of this sect. TSK. Jun Chang laughed and said, trouble comes pretty fast. Then he stood up and walked out. Outside the sect, the elder of the Ghost Hand sect stood proudly with his hands behind his back, his eyes flashing with a sinister light. He was a typical person of the evil sect. He was very angry now, because the disciples who participated in the martial arts competition were killed by Li Qingyang of the Iron Bone Sect. What made him even more angry was that he squatted outside the city, where the martial arts competition was held for most of the day, but he didn't wait for that guy. After killing the evil sect disciples, Li Qingyang must have known that he would get into trouble, so he disguised himself when he came out. Otherwise, he would never have returned safely. Creaky. The tightly closed red lacquer door opened. Jun Chang laughed and walked out from inside, saying with a smile, who are you? Humph. Gui Jianchao said coldly, the 4th elder of the Ghost Hand sect of Huaing County, Songzi. To die. This name is similar to Ai Zhao. Kit. Song Si, I said indifferently. You look well dressed. Could it be that you are the leader of the Tegu sect? Yes. Sect leader Jun smiled and said, Elder Song, how come you have time to come all the way to visit my Tegu sect? Visit for nothing. Song Si said in a deep voice, call out Li Qingyang from your sect. I want to kill him. As expected of someone from an evil sect, he is straightforward. Jun Chang smiled and said, Elder Song is a high-ranking member of the sect after all. It is a bit inappropriate for him to come to my Tegu sect to kill my disciples. Song Si sneered and said, anyone who dares to kill a disciple of my ghost hand sect, no matter what his identity is, I must kill him with my own hands. How about this? Jun Chang smiled and said, I will fight with Elder Song. Just broke through to the 6th grade martial artist, and my hands are itching. Hehe. Song Si laughed strangely. Master Jun, when I fight with others, I only want to take their lives, not to exchange blows. Well then. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, I will let Elder Song take my life. It's not bad to let the master pay with his life for killing my disciples. Song Si said indifferently, here, or go to your martial arts arena. Here. Jun Changxiao said with a smile, I'm afraid that the blood will stain the stone slabs. Hehe. Song Si laughed strangely. Master Jun is a particular person. Swish. Suddenly, Jun Changxiao appeared in front of him with a ghost step and said grimly, don't misunderstand, Elder Song, I'm afraid that your blood will stain the stone slabs. Song Si's smile froze and his eyes were filled with horror. This guy was so fast that he didn't even catch how he got close. Swish. At this moment, Jun Changxiao swung his fist. With the blessing of the explosive fist, the power he carried easily broke through to more than 100,000 pounds. Not good. Boom. Chapter 245-7. Jun Changxiao, who has broken through to the 6th grade martial artist, can easily break 100,000 jins with any martial arts. This is quite terrifying. You know, the most ordinary 1st grade martial arts master only has 100,000 jins of strength. He can reach it at his current level, and the increase is definitely more than 6,000. In other words, although Jun is only a 6th grade martial artist now, he already has the strength of an ordinary martial artist. If he cooperates with the power increase talisman, it will be even more brutal. Li Luoqiu, who is also a 6th grade martial artist, certainly does not have such a strong strength value. Therefore, there is no doubt that the strongest combat power of the Tegu sect belongs to Arjun. Yi Xingchen. He is only strong in martial arts experience. In terms of real strength value, it is definitely far less than that. Even a sword cultivator like Zhao Hong, if he does not rely on the Lingjian divine art, I'm afraid he is a lot behind. Jun is strong, but he rarely takes action. After all, there is a group of disciples, so there is no need to explode at all, unless facing a strong enemy. The Ghost Hand Sect elder in front of him was at the same level as him in terms of status, so he had to take action. Song Si was a 3rd grade martial artist, and his strength was only 50,000, which was a direct difference of 2 times. How to fight? There was no way to fight. Jun Changxiao used the explosive fist, and the speed driven by the power made it difficult for him to dodge, so he could only be hit in the abdomen. In an instant, Song Si's eyes bulged out, and a spiritual energy spread from the back of the hit position, and his clothes suddenly broke into a fist-sized hole. Wow. Blood spurted out, and the heart-wrenching pain instantly hit his heart. Jun Changxiao hit Song Si, and although he didn't knock him out, he was definitely injured. This was because he withdrew a little strength halfway, otherwise he would have died long ago. Snap. Another hand stretched out, clasped Song Si's neck, and dragged him in front of him. Jun Changxiao looked cold and said, you dare to come to my Iron Bone Sect, and take my disciple's life. You are really tired of living. The murderous aura was everywhere, and it was extremely cold. In front of his disciples, he can be very easygoing and occasionally playful, but facing the enemy, he is absolutely like a demon god. Jun Changxiao has completely transformed. He is no longer a law-abiding earthling, but a real Xingyan continent person. It is not my character to adapt. I will let Xingyan continent adapt to me. Anyone who bullies me and humiliates me will pay the price. This is what he said to the system after slaughtering hundreds of bandits in Black Wine Village. Destroy Lingquan Sect. Destroy Xiao Tower. Destroy Black Eagle Hall. Everything he did explained that Jun Changxiao wanted Xinjiang continent to adapt to himself, rather than adapting to Xinjiang continent in a passive way. His 5 fingers gradually exerted force, and the pain and fear from death instantly permeated Song Si. He looked horrified and said, don't kill me. Don't want to die. Jun Changxiao said coldly. Who wants to die if they can live? As the power increased, Song Si felt that half of his body was already on the gate of hell. The experience of being infinitely close to death was really terrifying. As an elder of the Ghost Hand Sect, he never blinks when killing people, and sometimes he will brutally kill his opponents to let them experience the taste of death. Now it's his turn, and good and evil will eventually be rewarded, and the law of heaven will be reincarnation. If you don't believe it, look up and see who will be spared by heaven. No, I want to die. Song Si has not completely given up his desire to live, and he made a pleading sound from his throat that was in severe pain. Jun Changxiao relaxed a little and said coldly, if you don't want to die, be my servant. When the power of death disappeared, Song Si felt that he had stepped out of the gate of hell again. The feeling of escaping death was really the happiest thing in life. Okay, I'll be your servant. He tried to speak clearly, fearing that the other party couldn't hear him and would kill him in the next second. Swish. Jun Changxiao retracted his hand. Plop. Song Si was relieved and collapsed directly on the ground. Still alive. I'm still alive. Jun Changxiao said in a cold voice, from today on, you are my servant. What a servant has to do is to obey me, otherwise I will make you live a life worse than death. Understand? Understood. Song Si said weakly. As long as he could stay alive, he would not care about anything. Jun Changxiao squatted down, put one hand on his shoulder, and said with a cold look, how can I trust you? It's very simple. Lu Kai and Qian leaned against the door without knowing when, folded her hands and said lightly, let him hand over the soul origin. Soul origin? Jun Changxiao had never heard of it. The system said, the soul origin is the lifeblood of martial artist. If you master it, or thought can make his soul fly away. Is it so awesome? Come on. Jun Changxiao said, hand over your soul origin, and this seat will spare your life. Song Si's eyes were full of confusion, but he felt a hand on his shoulder increase its strength, and said in fear, I will give it up. As he spoke, his mind communicated with his soul, and pulled out a line-like thing from his body. This is the origin of the soul. An existence that is superior to the 3 souls and 7 spirits. The system said, hold it in your hand, and put it into the space ring. Jun Changxiao stretched out his hand, grabbed the origin of the soul, and then dragged it out. With a thought, he put it into the space ring. Okay, everything is done. He has already grasped Song Si's lifeblood. As long as his mind is integrated into the space ring and the origin of the soul is crushed, he can kill him, and his soul will be scattered. Of course, if the origin of the soul is safe and sound, the controlled martial artist will not be injured at all, and he can eat when he should eat, and sleep when he should sleep. Let's go. Jun Chang smiled and said, go back to the Ghost Hand Sect, and continue to be an elder. I will contact you when I need you. Yes. Call me master. Yes, master. Song Si stood up with difficulty, dragged his injured body, and walked down the mountain weakly step by step. At that moment, he really wanted to cry. Why didn't he pretend that nothing happened? Why did he come to the Iron Bone Sect? Now it's alright. Not only was the person not killed, but the origin of his soul was also controlled by the leader of the Iron Bone Sect, and he became a servant. As dusk set in the west, Song Si's back was stretched infinitely long, and the whole person seemed to have aged by dozens of years in an instant. Ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the hidden task, obey orders, and obtaining 100 contribution points. Ding. Contribution value 1050/1000. Ding. The sect's contribution value overflowed. Huh. Jun Changxiao was startled and said, is this also a hidden mission? The system said, the host has grasped the origin of his soul, so he will naturally obey orders. Oh. Jun Changxiao understood and said with a smile, I've made a profit. Master. Lu Kai and Qian said, why don't you kill him? Jun Changxiao touched his nose and said, if you kill him, the Ghost Hand Sect will definitely not let it go. I don't want to cause trouble. Just after mobilizing a large number of troops to destroy a Black Eagle Hall and then to destroy a Ghost Hand sect, it's really a bit too diligent. What's more, if you go to destroy this and that every day, how can you develop your sect in a low-key manner? Chapter 246 Hatching Fire Dragon Eggs. Jun Changxiao didn't kill Songsi because he didn't want to cause trouble. But it's definitely not okay to just let him go. If he goes back to complain, the Ghost Hand sect will definitely come to harass him again. So he can only make him his servant and control him so that he can avoid subsequent troubles. However, he never expected that controlling the soul origin of that guy would actually complete a hidden task. Luke Qian said, the headmaster has matured a lot. Not killing Songsi, but controlling him. This is undoubtedly the most perfect way to deal with it. Jun Changxiao walked to the door, half a meter away from her, and killed him from the side, smiling. The more you contact me, you will know that such a mature man is worth entrusting your life to. Luke Qian's bright eyes were cold. Jun Changxiao retreated in a hurry. As soon as he entered the sect, he kicked the flying happy football back, and then hit Li Fei in the face with a bang, hitting him on the wall in the shape of a awesome. Suzaomo and others admired it. The only one who came to cause trouble was Songsi of the Ghost Hand sect, so Xiao Zuji's participation in the martial arts competition was a perfect end. In the evening, Jun Changxiao opened the data panel and murmured, there are 50 more points, so let's brush them off first. The system said, impulsiveness is a devil. Hey, this is the first time that the host has actively persuaded him to calm down. Jun Changxiao said, don't worry, after so many refreshes, I have long been calm. Even if I can't brush out good things, I won't get excited easily. The system said, I hope so. Brush. Jun Changxiao's mind moved, and the mall was pulled down. The old products were quickly replaced by new ones. However, after looking at the rows, his heart suddenly sank. There was nothing except daily necessities. What's more fucked up is that there is actually a product called incubator. Wait, incubator? Jun Changxiao was startled and quickly clicked on the details item. Incubator. Introduction. As long as enough crystal core energy is provided, any egg in the world can be hatched, especially the beast eggs in the high-level martial arts world. Advantages. After hatching, the young beast that breaks out of the shell will automatically sign a contract with the host. Special effects. During the hatching process, there is a certain chance that the young beast inside will mutate, thereby greatly improving its strength. Price. 300 contribution points. Oh my god. Jun Changxiao said, an incubator is more expensive than the Azure Dragon Crescent Blade. The system said, this is a product that can hatch beast eggs. After success, not only will the contract be automatically signed, but there is also a chance that the young beast will mutate. 300 contribution points are still cheap. Didn't the host just get a dragon egg in Death Valley? Recommended purchase index. I know. Jun Changxiao interrupted, isn't it just 5 stars? The system said with great relief, the host has learned to answer questions quickly, and his IQ is good. Get lost. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and murmured, it's been a while since I brought the dragon egg back, and I don't know how to hatch it. It's not bad to buy this thing, but a bit ugly, right? For the contracted beast, Jun Changxiao only cares about the appearance. After all, it has face when going out. The system said speechlessly, the fire dragon beast is huge, and it is also a fire beast. If the host rides it out, the rate of turning back will definitely be 100%. That's right. Jun Changxiao said, I bought it. Ding. The host consumed 300 contribution points and obtained an incubator X1, which has been transferred to the space ring. Ding. Contribution value of the sect. 740,000. The soul merged into the space ring. Looking at the incubator, that was more than 2 meters high and more than 2 meters wide, Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, so big. The system said, the eggs laid by high-level beasts are about the size of a small mountain. This incubator is still small. Jun Changxiao walked around the incubator and found a groove at the bottom of the base. He immediately realized that this was the place to charge the crystal core. Try it. back to the outside world, put the machine in the study, then carried the dragon egg over, opened the door of the incubator, and threw it into the central area slot. The system said, there are high quality incubators in the mall. Not only can they hatch many eggs at the same time, but the host can also manipulate the young beasts to sign contracts with others after hatching. Oh my god. Jun Chang laughed and said in surprise, this is awesome. Hatching many eggs at the same time and being able to decide the signatories, as long as you find enough eggs of fierce beasts and give one to each disciple, the scene will be absolutely shocking. The system said, this kind of high-level incubator can only be refreshed in the mall above the intermediate level. How far away? How far away? Jun Chang laughed. After throwing the dragon egg in, the next step is to fill the crystal core energy to start hatching. However, when Master Jun spent 10 crystal cores to fill the hatching energy and clicked on the 4 words, start hatching, there was still no movement. Did you buy a fake? The system said, this egg was laid by the fire dragon beast after all. The host will definitely not be able to hatch it with a medium grade crystal core. It turns out that hatching beast eggs depends on the level of the crystal core. Jun Changxiao drew back the energy inside and refilled it. This time, he used 10 crystal cores of the 9th grade. Pop. He pressed the switch, but there was still no movement. The system was quite surprised and said, crystal cores of this level should be able to hatch fire dragon beast eggs. Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, I must have bought a fake. The system said, host, change it again, and try a high grade crystal core. No way. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, that's quite precious. It's a bit of a loss to use it to hatch a fire dragon beast egg. The system said, you can't catch a wolf without sacrificing a child. Maybe the host is lucky and can hatch a kun by mistake. Damn. Jun Changxiao said, you've seen too many commercials. However, thinking about Deo Realm Kun, Demon Kun, and Crossing Tribulation Bone Kun, he suddenly felt a little excited. Come on. Jun Changxiao took back the crystal core energy again, took out 10 high grade crystal cores, and poured them all in. The light came on again. Jun Changxiao rubbed his hands and placed them on the round button, just like a mentor of China's voice, making a difficult decision whether to take the shot. Snap. Turning around for the student's dreams. Whoosh. In an instant, a stream of spiritual power-like properties gushed out of the incubator, instantly occupying the entire interior and completely covering the dragon egg. Drip. Drop. A slight sound sounded regularly, and the LED screen on the chassis displayed text, time required for hatching. 0/15 days. Mutation rate. 100th. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, is this mutation rate 1%? Yes. The system said. Jun Changxiao said madly, what's the difference between this and not mutating? Even if he sucked a lot of European energy for a while, he would never think that a 1% chance would make the dragon egg mutate. The system said, if you want to increase the mutation rate, you can invest crystal core energy during the hatching process. How much? Jun Changxiao said. The system said, the host needs to explore it himself. Okay. Jun Changxiao took out a medium grade crystal core that he had just retrieved and then poured energy into the groove, but there was no reaction. He put in 9 more crystal cores one after another, and the mutation rate finally jumped from 1 to 2. Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, 10 medium grade crystal cores only increase 1 point, and it will take 980 to reach 100%. If it was a low grade crystal core, let alone 980, even 10,000 would not be a big deal, but so many medium grade crystal cores would be very expensive. Is it worth investing so much for an egg? The system said, the host doesn't charge a penny, and there is no chance of failure in the operation. How can you hatch a kun? Chapter 247 Improving the Mutation Rate. If the host doesn't charge a penny, there is no chance of failure. How can he hatch kun? This sentence seemed to turn into a sharp sword, piercing Jun Changxiao's heart fiercely, and he hurriedly covered his chest in pain. Yes. Want kun without spending money? That would probably only appear in advertisements and dreams. Isn't it just spending money? Jun Changxiao said, I have it. He got angry and selected 50 first grade crystal cores from the space ring and filled them all in. The mutation rate increased from 2 to 3. Not bad. 50 first grade crystal cores only increased by 1 point. Fuck you. Jun Changxiao collapsed and said, isn't it 10 to increase by 1 point? How come it has become 50? The system said, if the host wants to increase to 4 points, I'm afraid you have to fill in 100. This is too expensive. Jun Changxiao said madly. Although he has money, he can't afford to spend so much on crystal cores, even if he doubles his investment. The system said, host can try to use higher level crystal cores instead of always using low level crystal cores like the first grade crystal cores. Jun Changxiao was about to cry. High level crystal cores are expensive. Even if they can increase the mutation rate, the cost will also go up. Forget it, forget it. Since so many crystal cores have been invested, we must not give up. At least we have to reach 3%, more than 50 points, in order to get a chance to make mistakes in operation. Master Jun got excited and took out 10 5th grade crystal cores. After all of them were poured in, the mutation rate increased from 3 points to 4 points. However, it took 50 5th grade crystal cores to increase from 4 points to 5 points. Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched and said, the money spent on making a fire dragon beast egg mutate is still blackmailed by the Chinese online game and mobile game manufacturers. The system encouraged, since you have taken this step, the host should not give up halfway and be bold to squander it. Jun Changxiao was speechless. The system continued, only a high-grade crystal nucleus can start hatching. This dragon egg is definitely extraordinary. If it mutates again, the host's benefits will definitely be greater than the cost. This sentence made Jun Changxiao's heart beat, and then he took out the crystal nucleus again, and began to frantically fill the incubator groove with energy. Except for the high-grade crystal nucleus, that was not used for the time being, all the low-grade and middle-grade crystal nuclei were sent in. Finally, there were only a few dozen high-quality crystal nuclei left in the space ring, and all the low and medium-grade crystal nuclei were sent in, with a number of at least 600 or 700. The mutation rate increased from 5 points to 10 points. Almost 1,000 crystal nuclei, but only increased by 9%, which made Jun Changxiao deeply understand what burning money means. You know, selling 500 crystal nuclei to the head of the AI family is also worth 10 million. These nearly 1,000 crystal nuclei must start at a minimum of 20 million, and they were burned up by him in a moment. Calm down, calm down. Jun Changxiao took a deep breath and said, this is a bottomless pit. It can't be filled anymore. He really wanted to give up, but he couldn't control his hands at all. In the end, he sent all the high quality crystal cores in, including the crystal cores of the fire dragon beast and the stone man. The crystal cores comparable to Wuzan were integrated into the incubator. The mutation rate on the screen continued to rise, but after the crystal core of the fire dragon beast was poured in, it soared directly from 22 points to 72 points. An increase of 50 points. Jun Changxiao was surprised and said, what's going on? The system was silent for a while and said, if I guessed correctly, the fire dragon beast crystal core and the dragon egg have a good match, which greatly stimulated the mutation rate. Jun Changxiao seemed to understand something and said, you mean, the dragon egg is incubated with the dragon beast crystal core, and the mutation rate is higher than other crystal cores? It should be like this. The system said. Jun Chang laughed and said, I just injected a lot of fire dragon cub crystal cores. Why didn't it improve that much? Maybe the level is too low. Jun Chang laughed and let out a breath, and he calmed down completely. He was not angry at all now, because all the crystal cores were poured in. With his hands on the transparent glass-like surface of the incubator, Jun Changxiao said in a deep voice, I have used up all my crystal cores, and the operation must fail to hatch a kun. The system said, I think, judging from the host's luck, in refreshing the contribution value, it is safe to reach at least 99%. Otherwise once it fails, all the crystal cores thrown in will be wasted. Jun Changxiao didn't care whether it was going west or east, and said, you mean, I still have to spend money to buy crystal cores to continue incubating? Yeah. Do you know how much those crystal cores cost? You know, even if I exchange all the money on me for crystal cores, it is impossible to increase to 99%. Faced with Jun Changxiao's continuous questioning, the system said calmly, if the host hatches a Dao Realm Kun, a Demon Kun, a Tribulation Bone Kun, or the strongest beast in the classic of mountains and seas that feeds on Kun, everything will be paid back. After a long time, Jun Changxiao said, that makes sense. The next day, Jun Changxiao went to Huayang City and found AI Shangni. The first thing he said was, I want to buy back the crystal core I sold some time ago at the original price. Gap. AI Shangni was stunned. Selling it and then buying it back? What kind of operation is this? Sect Master Jun. Of course. Jun Changxiao said, if your store has anything related to dragon beasts, please sell it to me at the 5th grade or higher level. AI Shangni's mouth twitched and said, Sect Master Jun, crystal cores related to dragon beasts are extremely rare, and they have to reach the 5th grade. Not to mention Qingyang County, even the 8th grade Qingyang County may not have it. Which county has it? Jun Changxiao said. AI Shangni said, in the Xingyan continent, anything with the word dragon is a rare treasure. I'm afraid it can only be sold in the 5th grade counties. How long will it take to reach the 5th grade county closest to our Qingyang County? Jun Changxiao said. If you ride a wine type beast, it will take at least a month. AI Shangni said. A month. Jun Changxiao collapsed. Wind beasts are known for their speed. It would take a month. He didn't think he could get there within 15 days riding the purple lightning tiger. Forget it. Forget it. Let's buy back the ones we sold first, and then spend 20 million to buy some other high level beast crystal cores. The crystal core shop run by the AI family doesn't have many high quality crystal cores. Jun Changxiao only bought more than 20 high quality 2nd and 3rd grade crystal cores, so he went to other crystal core shops. In the end, he visited all the crystal core shops in the market and only sold more than 50 high quality ones, but he spent more than 20 million. The crystal core comparable to the martial arts master starts at 400,000. I can only do this much. Whether it can be cheaper or not depends on fate. Jun Changxiao didn't go to other cities, but returned to the sect. Coincidentally, he met Long Xiang in the martial arts field. In the Xingyan continent, anything with the word dragon is a rare treasure. The words of the head of the AI family rang in his ears. Jun Changxiao almost couldn't help but carry the disciple named Long to the incubator and try his blood. Oh, I'm almost going crazy. Jun Changxiao shook his head and got up to return to the inner courtyard, while Long Xiang said with a blank face, the master's eyes were a bit strange just now. I'm about to bleed you. How can I not blame you? Back in the study, Jun Changxiao put all the crystal cores worth 30 million teals into it, and the mutation rate increased from 72 to 85. He really wanted to continue to improve it to 100 points, but his ability was really limited, so he could only bow to fate helplessly. Besides 85%, this mutation rate is already very high. It won't fail so coincidentally. Thinking of the time when I played games, even if the success rate was greater than 95%, I could still fail to refine the equipment, and Master Jun trembled. PS. One update in the early morning, and more during the day. Chapter 248 Rescue. After the increase to 85 points, Jun Changxiao gave up on continuing to invest in crystal cores. There was no other way. Only 10 or 20 million were left. If all of them were invested, it would probably only increase by 1 or 2 points. The rest would be left to fate. Although even if it was only 1%, there was a possibility of mutation. But he still worked hard to increase the mutation rate, just to prove that he didn't rely on the protagonist's halo, but on really spending money. What if it failed? If 85% still failed, it would be God's will. It only failed 15 times out of 100 times, and only failed 1.5 times out of 10 times. The idea shouldn't be so unlucky. Jun Changxiao comforted himself. The system said, if the host fails 1.5 times, it must be a complete failure. Damn. How can it not hit me? Jun Changxiao ignored it and waited quietly for the incubation time to be reached. Now only 1 day has passed, and there are still 14 days left. The time is a bit long, so I put my mind on cultivation and management of disciples. The next day, Suzuomo went to another county to participate in the sect competition and returned. She was very clean when she left, but she was covered in dust when she came back. It was obvious that she had been rushing too fast. The disciples hurriedly gathered around and saw that the senior brother had a championship medal around his neck, and they immediately shouted. The two senior brothers went to different counties and won the first place one after another. This definitely greatly boosted the morale of the Tegu sect disciples and made them full of hope for the future. Suzaomo went to see the headmaster and handed over the championship reward. He would not keep it privately because without the headmaster's training, he would not be who he is today, and he would not easily win the championship. Of course, Jun Changxiao would not treat Suzaomo badly and gave him 10 spirit stones. The rest were saved and given to other disciples as rewards for various tests of the sect. In the next few days, Li Fei and Shanqi also returned one after another. The two lived up to the headmaster's trust and successfully won various competition championships and obtained considerable martial arts resources. Although the realm of these inner disciples trained by Jun Changxiao was only at the level of martial arts apprentices, their strength had reached the level of martial arts masters. Except for high-level competitions, participating in those low-level sect competitions is absolutely invincible, and there will be no suspense at all. King Guiyang and the other four brought a total of 100 spirit stones. Although the number is not large, at least there is still some gain. Jun Changxiao is quite satisfied with the way of letting disciples participate in various sect competitions to earn resources. It's a pity. There are too few competitions and the sustainability is relatively poor. Strange. Jun Changxiao touched his chin and said, "Why hasn't Zuji come back yet?" All 5 inner disciples completed their tasks and returned, but Zuji has not returned yet. Could it be that the competition is very difficult? Master. At this time, Liluokyu hurriedly walked into the hall and said, "There is news from Heian County that Zuji won the championship of the sect competition and was blocked by a large number of masters on the way back. The situation is very bad and needs to be rescued quickly." Jun Changxiao frowned. No wonder he hasn't returned yet. It turns out that he was blocked. How many people are there? At least 100, including many martial arts masters. Jun Changxiao was silent for a moment and said, "Gather the people from Xiaotang and follow me to Heian County to rescue people." Yes. Li Luokyu hurriedly withdrew and summoned all the Xiaotang members in the sect. According to Jun Changxiao's intention, the other disciples continued to practice. But when they walked out of the hall, they saw Li Qingyang, Suzaomo and others standing in the front row of the martial arts field, with solemn faces. They had received the news that junior brother Zhao was blocked in Heian County. "You are going to?" Jun Changxiao said. Li Qingyang said, "Junior brother is in trouble, and we are willing to go to rescue him." "Okay." Jun Changxiao said, "Let's go." The other disciples also wanted to follow to rescue senior brother Zhao, but they knew that their strength was limited. Not only would it be useless, but it would also slow down the rescue speed, so they could only watch the head and others go, and pray that they would return safely. Swish, swish, swish. On the road to Heian County, more than 50 members of Xiaotang performed ghost steps and galloped. "Damn it." Li Shangshan followed and said angrily, "You are so brave to bully our Tegu sect disciples." After the incident of destroying the Black Eagle Hall, the immaturity on this kid's face faded a lot, and he became a little mature. Because they were going to rescue, everyone's speed increased to the extreme. Jun Changxiao rode the purple lightning young tiger in the front, and the coldness in his eyes became more and more intense. Although he didn't know why, so many warriors went to block Zhao Zuji. Since he dared to offend our Tegu sect, he must be severely punished. Li Qingyang and Suzaomo followed closely behind, and they were also very worried about their junior brother, so they increased their speed again and again, until they couldn't go any faster. "Junior brother Zhao, you must hold on until we come." Heian County is at least 1,000 miles away from Qingyang County, and it takes at least 2 or 3 days to travel normally. However, Jun Changxiao led his disciples to come at the fastest speed, and they arrived in Heian County at dusk. Li Luokyu stood in the mountains, looked around, confirmed the marks left by the members, pointed to the east and said, "Master, it should be in this direction. Let's go." Jun Changxiao led his disciples to the east. A dark place in a valley. Zyrozuji tore a strip of cloth from his clothes, wrapped it around his wrist with sword marks, and then raised the 88 type sniper rifle, his eyes cold. His face was pale, and it seemed that he had not only external injuries, but also internal injuries. After participating in the sect competition in Heian County, Zyrozuji was about to return to the sect, but was blocked by warriors from various sects. Reason? He was too heavy-handed and injured his own disciples. In fact, during the competition, the disciples of various sects were more ruthless because they despised Zyrozuji for coming from the 8th-rate sect of the 9th class county. The major sects in Heian County would not care about this. As long as the disciples are bullied, the perpetrators must pay the price and must be severely punished. Boy. Suddenly, a loud voice came from the valley. You are now trapped in the valley. Give up struggling, show up and hand over the Shenwei fire gun. Maybe you can still survive. Zyrozuji set up the Type 88 sniper rifle, approached the 8-fold scope, aimed at the direction where the voice came from, and found more than a dozen warriors from various factions standing there, and pulled the trigger again. Whoosh! The bullet shot out silently, directly killing a peak martial artist, and then carried the gun to move to another position as quickly as possible. He's there. Damn it, chase him quickly. He killed so many of us with hidden weapons, and we must cut him into pieces if we catch him. Warriors from various factions rushed over. Unfortunately, Zyrozuji had rich experience in field combat. After shooting and killing one person, he hid himself again very well, forcing them to continue looking for him and become more vigilant. The valley was not big, and as everyone continued to shrink the encirclement, the area became smaller and smaller. Zyrozuji, who had killed many people from various factions, knew that he would be discovered sooner or later, so he set up the Type 88 sniper rifle again. Kill as many as you can, even if you die, it's not a loss. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a sound of breaking wind behind him, and a powerful force swept over. Not good. Zyrozuji's face changed drastically, and he quickly put away his gun to avoid it, but he was still a step too late, and was hit directly on the back by a fist carrying a strong spiritual power. Bang! He flew out, and hit the stone wall. The person who attacked from behind was a middle-aged man in white clothes, exuding the aura of martial master. He said lightly, "It's very good for a junior to hide for so long." Wow. Zyrozuji tried to stand up, and a mouthful of blood splashed out. Huh. The middle-aged man said in surprise, "It's even more precious that you can stand up after bearing my 200,000 kilograms of strength." Zyrozuji grinned with a bloody mouth and laughed. "No, don't underestimate me." Swish. The middle-aged man approached in an instant and said proudly, "I want to see how strong you, a disciple of the Iron Bone Sect, can be." The shadow of the fist spread instantly and hit Zyrozuji mercilessly. Bang, bang, bang. P.S. There will be one more chapter tonight. I'm working hard on it. Chapter 249. Move your feet away and give you a decent death. Boom. Zyrozuji hit the stone wall hard. Blood spurted out. In a short moment, he endured more than 20 punches from the martial master, and the force of each punch was no less than 100,000. But he still staggered and stood, and did not fall down. This is the disciple of the Iron Bone Sect. Even if he is attacked by a storm, even if he is already seriously injured, he must show his iron bones. Master Lio is a martial master, and he can still stand like this. This boy's body is too strong. No wonder he won the championship of the competition. Unfortunately, no matter how strong the body is, it can't resist the powerful force. The warriors of various sects who were searching nearby surrounded him and witnessed the scene of Zyrozuji being bombarded. They were all surprised that he could still stand. "Not bad, not bad." Master Lio said, "You can take so many punches from me and still stand. You are really a good seedling." Zyrozuji's face was hideous, and the heart-wrenching pain spread in his body, making him unable to open his mouth to speak. If he hadn't experienced some experience in the training tower, he would have fallen down by now. "Little guy." Sect Master Lio said calmly, "Leave the Tegu sect and join our Kishin sect. You can avoid death." Kishin sect, a 6th-rate sect in Heian County. In terms of overall strength and the number of disciples, it is stronger than the Heoki sect. This middle-aged man named Liu Kunfang is the leader of the Kishan sect. He is a second-grade martial sect and is stronger than Kinhoran. Leave the Tegu sect? Ziozuji grinned painfully when he heard the first sentence. He suppressed his injuries and made a weak voice. In life, I'm a member of the Tegu sect, and in death I'm a ghost of the Tegu sect. Boy, Kishan sect has the potential to become a fifth-rate sect. Such a good opportunity is not easy to find. Your Tegu sect is only 8th rate. The leader did not follow you to participate in the sect competition. Why should you be so devoted to it? A good bird chooses a tree to roost in. You should understand this principle. Everyone acted as a lobbyist. However, these words entered Ziozuji's ears, which only made him laugh even harder. There is no denying that the situation is very dangerous now. But leaving the Tegu sect and changing sects is impossible even if he dies. Swish. Liu Kunfang raised his hand, and with the gathering of spiritual energy, he took the Type 88 sniper rifle that fell not far away. Everyone was envious. Only a martial sect with a higher understanding of the attributes of heaven and earth can use spiritual power to take objects from a distance. Liu Kunfang played with the sniper rifle and said lightly, joining the Kishan sect can save you from death, and not joining the Kishan sect will only lead to death. The voice was proud and had the demeanor of a strong man. There was no trace of cowardice in Ziozuji's eyes, but he said decisively, don't join. Everyone sneered. Give you the opportunity to live, don't know how to cherish it, and you can't blame others if you die. There are also martial artists from other sects who feel sorry. After all, it is a bit of a waste to kill such a good seedling. In that case, Liu Kunfang said coldly, you killed so many disciples of my Kishan sect, so you can die. After speaking, he took a step forward, and his right fist blasted over with rich spiritual energy, and the power rose sharply, and the power was still more than 200,000. Whoosh! A strong wind blew Ziozuji's black hair, but his pale face was unusually calm. This was the courage to face death. Swish! Just at this moment, a black shadow flew over from the darkness. Although it was fast, Liu Kunfang caught it, and his fist suddenly turned and blasted towards the comer. Bang! The fist carrying 200,000 pounds of power, like a sharp sword, directly penetrated the chest of the black shadow, and blood spurted out immediately. Junior brother. Ziozuji's eyes were bloodshot. The black shadow that suddenly jumped out of the darkness was a member of the Iotang who was responsible for protecting him. Senior brother, hurry, go. The disciple who was born as a killer died as soon as he finished speaking. Ah! Ziozuji roared angrily, condensing the little power in his body and blasting Liu Kunfang. This was going to fight to the death. It was a pity that he couldn't beat Wu Zhang even when he was healthy, not to mention that he was seriously injured now, so when his fist came back, he was swept away by the opponent's single palm. Bang! He fell hard against the stone wall, collapsed with a bang, and no longer had the strength to stand up. He was seriously injured after taking so many punches in a row. Liu Kunfang threw the body out, then took out a tissue to wipe his bloody hands, looked around, and said lightly, it turns out that there are people hiding in the dark. As soon as these words came out, everyone hurriedly became alert. The other members of the Iotang who were lurking in the dark, watching their companions being killed, all clenched their fists, their eyes flashing with anger. As a qualified killer, when the opponent is very strong, the first thing to consider is retreat. But they will not retreat, and they cannot retreat. Because today they are no longer assassins, but members of the Tiguz Hengzheng factions the Iotang. Swish! A member could not help but rush out. He did not attack, but exposed himself, and rushed in another direction. This was to attract firepower, and give senior brother Zio a chance to escape. Warriors from various factions locked onto that member, and sent more than 10 people to chase him. If he continued to lurk, it would be difficult for everyone to do anything to him, but if he took the initiative to expose himself, he would soon be caught up and captured. Plop. The member was thrown in front of Liu Kunfang. He stepped on his back with one foot, looked at Ziozuji, and said lightly, this should also be your junior brother, right? Ziozuji turned his face sideways, and saw his junior brother being stepped on like this. His face was filled with anger and looked ferocious. Guessed right. Liu Kunfang got the answer he wanted from his expression, and then gently raised his foot and said, "You killed so many of my people, so let's use him to fill the gap first." Swish, swish, swish. At this moment, the other 3 members hiding in the dark could no longer hold back. Even though they knew they would be exposed, they all threw out their hidden weapons. Liu Kunfang raised his hand, froze all the flying hidden weapons, and then put his 5 fingers together, condensing them in an instant. Find all the flies in the dark. Okay. The warriors of various factions rushed in the direction where the hidden weapons were flying. Bang. Liu Kunfang kicked the captured member in front of Xiao Zuji and walked towards him step by step. He was like a king, looking down at the 2 weak ants, and said, "Since we are from the same sect, we will die together, and we won't be lonely on the road." As he said that, he raised his foot. Whoosh. The spiritual energy gathered, and the power gradually increased. Only about 100,000 pounds of power was used, but with Xiao Zuji's state and the strength of that member, if he was stepped on, he would definitely die. Let's go. Liu Kunfang stepped down, and his target was the member of Xiaotang. No. Xiao Zuji's eyes were bloodshot. He wanted to use his body to block the attack for his junior brother, but he was too badly injured to move at all. Roar. At this moment, a deafening roar of a ferocious beast suddenly sounded from behind, followed by the heart-wrenching screams of warriors from various factions. Liu Kunfang stopped. He didn't look behind him, but raised his head in surprise, because there was a cold and fierce murderous intent spreading from above. Jun Changxiao stood on the mountain wall without knowing when, with King Lang Yanyu blade in one hand, his face covered with murderous intent, and said in a cold voice, "Move your feet away, I will give you a decent death." Chapter 250, Killing the Leader of Kishan Sect. At the critical moment, Jun Changxiao rushed to the valley by following the marks left on the road, and the anger in his heart could not be suppressed. Because after approaching the dead Xiaotang members, he heard the news that the sect members were reduced in number. Dare to kill my disciples. No matter who they are, or what their identity is, they must die. Of course. There are also rules for death. Is it a clean death or a painful death? If the middle-aged man below retracts his feet, he will die a clean death. If he insists on stepping on it, he will die in agony. Master! Master! Xiao Zuji shouted weakly, his eyes full of ecstasy. The master is here. Junior brother is safe. At this time, Xiao Zuji was not concerned about himself, but the members of Xiaotang. Seeing that his beloved baby was so seriously injured, Jun Changxiao's eyes became more and more murderous. Even if the guy standing below is a god or an immortal, he can only die. Aren't you afraid of offending people? Under normal circumstances, Jun Changxiao would choose to keep a low profile, such as sparing the elders of the Ghost Hand sect, but at this moment, there was only the thought of killing in his heart. Dragons have reverse scales, and touching them means death. Jun Changxiao's reverse scales are his precious disciples. Not to mention killing, even if a hair is injured, there will be a painful price to pay. Hearing what Xiao Zuji said, Liu Kunfang said lightly, "Are you the leader of the 8th stream Iron Bone Sect?" While he was talking, his feet still did not move. This made Jun Changxiao's heart determined to be a capital crime, and he wanted to die in agony. Perhaps because the other party was also the leader, Liu Kunfang took his feet back, but because he was half a beat late, he could not change the painful death. Just right. Liu Kunfang said lightly, "I have taken a fancy to your disciple, let him transfer to my Kishan sect." In his words, he did not take Jun Changxiao seriously at all. Not to mention the leader of the Iron Bone Sect, even if Qin Horan, who holds 2 positions, came, he would still be high and mighty. This is not pretending to be cool, nor is it a villain without brains. But because of his strength, he naturally has to act like a strong man. Do he have to bow and serve the weak? If I like him, I will become your disciple. Jun Changxiao said lightly, "You are really arrogant." Liu Kunfang said, "Give him to me, and we will wipe out all our grudges." He really admired Xiao Zuji. If he could be his disciple, he would definitely not want to kill him. Unfortunately, it was destined to be wishful thinking. Even if Jun Changxiao really gave Xiao Zuji to him, he would never tolerate the death of his disciple. So he raised his knife and said coldly, "Wipe out all our grudges? Fuck you." Liao Kunfang frowned and said, "You are the head of the sect after all, and you are full of vulgar words. You really have no manners at all. The person who killed me, you still talk to me about manners? Haha." Jun Changxiao laughed. Suddenly, his eyes were as cold as the knife light, and then he jumped up and swung the knife down. The force of this knife was at least 300,000 pounds. It can be seen that the power increasing talisman was crushed early. Liao Kunfang, who had a calm face, felt a powerful and heavy sword wind. His face suddenly became solemn, and he stretched out one hand and shouted, "Pei Iron Palm." Whoosh! The spiritual energy burst out from the palm, forming a cloud-like air wave, and quickly condensed the palm print to meet it. Jun Changxiao's knife was very powerful, so he didn't dare to be careless, and directly used the high-grade palm method he had comprehended for many years. Whoosh! Whoosh! The Qinglang Yanyu sword formed a green knife light, and the power was still rising, and finally soared to 400,000 pounds. What concept? Only martial arts masters with good spiritual roots can have such power. And, at least the 5th grade, Liao Kunfang has a superior spiritual root, and belongs to the upper middle martial arts master. Although he is only the 2nd grade, with the blessing of Pei Iron Palm, his strength can reach about 230,000. This is undoubtedly excellent. It's a pity that in front of Jun Changxiao's knife, it's completely not good enough. Break it. Jun Changxiao shouted coldly. The green blade light pressed down fiercely, directly cutting the palm print that seemed real and illusory, and the remaining power did not reduce the pressure. How is it possible? Liao Kunfang's face changed in shock, but there was no time for him to be shocked, and he hurriedly stepped on his body to dodge. Bang! As soon as he walked over here, the powerful and heavy blade energy had already chopped the ground, and instantly formed a blade mark about 1 meter long. Crack, crack, crack. The ground at the end of the blade mark quickly cracked and extended forward, and finally broke into 5 or 6 meters. A 400,000 Jin blade seemed to cut the ground in this area. Although Liao Kunfang barely dodged, he was shocked by the blade mark extending from the ground, and his back was immediately sweating. He had no doubt that, if the knife had hit him just now, the end would be to split him in half on the spot. The head of the Tegu sect looked like a 6th or 7th grade martial artist. Why did he burst out with such terrifying power? Exclamation mark. Could it be hiding his cultivation? Go to the meeting alone. Jun Changxiao, who had just landed, rushed over with a knife. The Qinglang Yanyu sword suddenly swept over halfway, and a green stream of light flashed out. It was still 400,000 Jin of power. Liao Kunfang was still frightened, and did not dare to fight with it, so he hurriedly stepped on his body to dodge. Although he could barely avoid it, he was still shocked when the knife light swept past his body. In front of absolute power, Ziozuji could only be beaten, and fell to the ground with serious injuries. Now, facing the head of the Tegu sect who was stronger than him, he also seemed a lot weaker. High above, he had already flown away without a trace. Swish! Jun Changxiao came with a knife. This time he used the ghost step, and his speed was increased to the extreme. While Liao Kunfang had just stabilized his body, he shouted, "Flood the 7 armies." Swish! The green knife light swept over. Not good. Liao Kunfang's face changed in shock. He wanted to dodge, but just as he turned his body to the side, the blade light was close to the tip of his nose, and slashed his right arm fiercely. Puff! The arm flew out as the blade light passed. Because the blade was too fast and the force was strong, the wound did not spurt blood at the first time. Swish! Jun Changxiao appeared behind Liao Kunfang like a ghost. Puff! The blade light flashed again, and another arm flew out again. It was not until this time that the wound on Liao Kunfang's right arm began to spurt blood. The severe pain rushed to his sea of consciousness, making his face suddenly hideous. Ziozuji watched from an angle, his eyes wide open. A martial arts master had his arms cut off by the head of the sect in just a few moves. This is really shocking. It's not over yet. Warm wine to kill who is Iron. Jun Changxiao swept the lower 3 plates fiercely with the Qinglang Yanyu sword. Swish! The green blade light passed directly from Liao Kunfang's knees, and a thin crack appeared immediately. Ah! Heart-wrenching screams resounded in the valley, scaring wild animals to flee, their eyes filled with intense fear. What kind of pain must a human have gone through to make such a miserable cry. Plop. Both legs were broken at the knees, and Liao Kunfang, with a ferocious look, fell straight to the ground. The piercing pain hit his sea of consciousness and scalp fiercely. Swish, swish, swish. The green knife light flashed, and it started to cut along the flesh. Cut off the arms and legs, and then cut off pieces of flesh. This is how the leader of the 6 Liu sect died. P.S. I have something to do recently. I have been updating twice in the past 2 days. Today I will update 4 times, and I will continue tomorrow. By the way, the update in the early morning will be adjusted to the daytime. I can't bear it anymore. I have to go to bed. I really don't have the energy to write. I will post it while writing tomorrow. As for the release time, it depends on how long I sleep, so I can't give an accurate point. Please recommend and vote for me. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.